Chapter 48, a data report. After coming out of the teacher's office, Wang Teng and Lin Chuhan walked to the school gate side by side. Class monitor, it's dinner time now. Why don't I treat you to a meal? There's no need for that. My mom has already cooked dinner and is waiting for me to go back. Lin Chuhan rejected him without any hesitation. All right, we will part here then. Wang Teng smiled. He didn't mind her response. All right, goodbye, replied Lin Chuhan. Wang Teng waved his hand. He sat in his car and drove away alone. Along the way, he called the landlord and informed him that he was going over to the house now. Approximately 10 minutes later, in the university town, it was the same pavement beside the main road. The rough-looking man rode his little scooter with a beauty sitting behind him. The scene looked extremely dissolute. It was the same rough-looking man but with an additional beauty hugging his waist. Wang Teng almost couldn't recognize the guy. He parked his sports car at the side of the road and got down. Little brother Wang, over here. The landlord waved at him. Wang Teng walked over only after he was called. He said in a meaningful tone, Brother, I only left for an afternoon, but I almost couldn't recognize you. The landlord obviously knew what he meant. He laughed and said, Low profile, low profile. The beauty behind him rolled her eyes and lifted her hand to pinch his fat waist. Stupid fellow. Oh my, the voice was a little sweet. Ouch. The rough-looking man gasped in pain. You must be young Master Wang, the king of Chijian Orphanage, right? Old Wang mentioned you before. The beauty turned to Wang Teng and said, Wang Teng. The landlord burst out laughing when he saw Wang Teng's frustrated expression. All right, don't mention this matter anymore. Normal people won't have the ability to bear with this name. It's all youth's fault. Wang Teng replied helplessly. How old are you? The beauty covered her mouth and smiled. Let me introduce her to you. This is my wife. You can call her Sister Han, said the landlord. Sister Han, Wang Teng called. Then, he continued, my name is Wang Teng. You can call me by my name. You and old Wang have the same surname, Sister Han smiled and replied. That's right. Brother has the surname Wang too. Oh right, I don't know your name yet. Wang Teng smiled. He felt that this was fate. There's no need to mention my name. I'll call you Brother Wang, and if you don't mind, you can call me Old Brother Wang. Wang Depao gave a look of contempt when his name was mentioned. Wang Teng didn't probe further. He nodded and asked, Are you going out to play? That's right. This idiot hasn't brought me out for a long time. He hardly accompanied me out today, Sister Han said sadly. Old Brother Wang, this is your fault. Sister Han is so pretty. How can you coop her up at home for so long? Wang Teng smiled. Did you hear that? Learn from little Teng. Look at how smart he is. Sister Han pinched Wang Depao's ears as she said. Wang Depao's expression became distorted due to the pain. He glared at Wang Ting with hidden bitterness on his face. I will not disturb you, then. Old Brother Wang, get along quickly. Wang Ting pushed Wang Depao in a friendly manner. At the same time, in the office building of Jisin Marshall House, a young lady around 20 years old was walking towards the principal's office in haste. There was a piece of paper in her hand. It was a data report. Xiaoming was a staff member of Jisin Marshall House. While she was collecting the data of the Marshall disciples today, something caught her attention. At the principal's office entrance, Xiaoming adjusted her breathing that had turned a little rapid because of her brisk walk. Then, she knocked on the door. Knock, knock, knock. Come in. A deep voice came from inside. Xiaoming pushed the door open and walked in. What's the matter? The principal was a man around 30 years old. He had short hair that looked like steel spikes on his head. Every single strand of his hair was erected. He wore a stern expression and gave off a fierce and sharp aura. The staff of Jisin Marshall House would all feel a little frightened when facing the principal. Xiaoming was no exception. At this moment, she needed to gather her courage before she dared to step forward and place the data report on the principal's table. Principal, there's something wrong with this report. I think that you should take a look at it. Oh. Fu Tiandao raised his eyebrows. He stopped what he was doing and turned his attention to the date report. He took the report and leaned against his chair. He scanned through it twice. A normal person rose to become an advanced stage martial disciple in less than a month. This is interesting. Fu Tiandao smiled ambiguously. Xiaoming wanted to say something, but Fu Tiandao continued, "You can leave now. I'll keep it with me. Also, don't tell anyone else about the content of this report." "Yes." Xiaoming replied in a hurry. Xiaoming didn't dare to probe further. After Wang Ting took the keys from the landlord, he placed the crow egg in the bedroom in the house. He then turned on the incubator and slowly incubated the egg. Then, he drove his car home to have dinner. Afterward, as usual, he went to the martial arts academy to pick up some attributes. For the next 2 days, Wang Teng's life was very peaceful. He followed the same routine every day. In the morning, he would go to school to collect some 5 years of martial arts exam, 3 years of mock papers attributes. If he didn't want to attend the lesson, he would go to the little forest to practice his force skill scriptures. This allowed the proficiency of his force and skill scriptures to rise. At night, he would visit Jisin Martial House to pick up some attributes to perfect his basic battle techniques and raise his battle power. Of course, he didn't forget his 2 main offensive force battle techniques, Fire Kirin Sword Skill and Phantom Ice Fist. After repeated attempts, Wang Teng realized that he was able to raise 1 point of his battle technique every 10 times he practiced. Also, as his enlightenment increased, the speed of his cultivation followed suit. This caused his thirst for enlightenment attributes to grow stronger. Wang Teng also experimented with the defense ability of Earth Element Shield. If he executed it to its fullest potential, Earth Element Shield could block approximately 80% of his attacking power. This was not bad already, keeping in mind that his overall battle power was at 201 points now. This meant that Earth Element Shield was able to neutralize a third to half of a full-fledged attack of a 1-star high-class martial warrior. This was enough to save his life in critical times. Furthermore, as long as he had ample Earth Force, the defense ability of his Earth Force could still be increased. Enlightenment, 90 Spirit, 22. 8 Talent, Beginner Stage Fire Talent, 11,300, Beginner Stage Ice Talent, 13,300, Beginner Stage Earth Talent, 12,300, Spiritual Sight, Beginner Stage 1, 1/10, Force, 64,100 Fire, 1-star Soldier Level Martial Warrior, 8,100 Ice, 1-star Soldier Level Martial Warrior, 7,100 Earth, 1-star Soldier Level Martial Warrior, Scripture, Red Flame Scripture, Foundation 2100, Deep Ice Scripture, Foundation 12,100, Earth Lure Skill Earth Element Shield, Foundation 15,100, Battle Techniques. Basic Battle Techniques, Mastery for Fist, Sword, Blade, Footwork, Basic Stick Skill, Foundation, Gun Skill, Small Achievement, Fire Kirin Sword Skill, Foundation 43,100, Phantom Ice Fist, Foundation 13,100, Knowledge. Basic Subjects, Full Marks, 5 years of Martial Arts Exam, 3 years of Mock Papers, 80 points, Overall Battle Power, 201 Blank Attribute, 0. Wang Teng nodded in satisfaction when he looked at the changes in his attributes board. It was improving at a visible rate. This was enough to delight him. Besides cultivation, Wang Ting also guarded against the team that the Earth Element Martial Warrior had mentioned before his death. The 3 martial warriors that died were probably just a part of a martial warrior team. Their disappearance would definitely raise the attention of the other team members. He hoped that those people wouldn't be able to find him out. Friday arrived. Master Lu flagship store, where Wang Ting had ordered his weapon carrier casket, finally responded to him. Chapter 49. Hurry up and become a certified martial warrior. Master Lu. Dear, your little basket is ready, happy smiley asterisk. What did he mean by little basket? Why can't he type properly? The happiness in his heart instantly turned into a stomach full of complaints that he couldn't vent. The other party immediately sent a photo over weapon carrier casket. JPG. The appearance of the weapon carrier casket was a little different from the last time he saw it. The color was changed to black. At the same time, there were a few silver runes on the surface. The whole thing looked extremely mysterious. Not bad tilde, it's just a little eye-catching. Is this person a rune master? Wang Ting couldn't help but guess. Wang Ting, you even added runes? Master Lu, that's right, dear. Relying solely on the mechanism is getting outdated. Hence, I added some runes to add finishing touches. As long as you activate the rune, the weapon you need will spring out with a swoosh. It's really convenient to use. Wang Teng, not bad. In that case, the price should be higher, right? Master Lu, the price doesn't matter. My grandfather will be elated if I'm able to sell this weapon carrier casket. It's all right to spend some effort on this matter. This was a good person. That's right, he is a filial and good person. Wang Ting gave him a long-distance good man card. Wang Ting, all right, I will pay an order now. You can send the casket to me immediately. Master Lu, sure. Yay, Wang Ting noticed that the person on the other end really loved to use emoticons. This person must have graduated from the Emoticon University. If that wasn't the case, the Chinese Academy of Emoticons owed him a certificate of graduation. Wang Ting, why don't you give yourself another nickname for future use? You can call yourself Crazy for emoticons. Without requiring the other person's approval, Wang Ting gave the person a loud and pleasant nickname. The price of the weapon carrier casket had already been changed on Daobao. It was 10,000 now. Wang Ting clicked it to place the order. Suddenly, a prompt popped up, sorry, you have not entered the martial warrior identification number. You can't place the order. What the hell? What is a martial warrior identification number? Why do you need a martial warrior identification number to buy something on Daobao? Why didn't anyone tell me about this? Wang Ting was stunned. He quickly asked the other party. Wang Ting, you need a martial warrior identification number to buy the things in your shop. Master Lu, yes, dear. Master Lu, what's the issue? Turned A asterisk. Wang Teng remained silent for a few seconds before asking, what is a martial warrior identification number? Master Lu, it's the number on your martial warrior credential. This explanation was amazing. It was the same as not explaining. Wang Ting had no choice but to remain patient. He asked the other party, where can you get the martial warrior credential? This person must be obtuse. Master Lu, you can take the test at the Martial Arts Association. Dear. Are you saying that you don't have the credentials? Dear, what dear? An asterisk sign suddenly appeared on Wang Ting's temple. You would definitely get a heart attack when talking to this person. Wang Ting, why does your shop need the martial warrior identification number? Master Lu, because our shop is a high-class flagship store. All our products are meant for martial warriors, so we need the martial warrior identification number to prove that you are one. It's all written in the visitor information. Dear, did you not see it? Surprised smiley. Wang Ting hurriedly browsed to the front to take a look. He stared at the screen for a long time before he finally found the visitor information at a corner. He suddenly wanted to curse. The guy had hidden this small line of words within the 10,000 words item description. Who would be able to see it? Wang Ting asked, can you send the item first? I'll give you the martial warrior identification number afterward. Master Lu, I can't do that, dear. Wang Ting, why not? Master Lu, a martial warrior must be certified before he can use rune weapons. Wang Ting, there's such a rule? Master Lu, yes. Hurry up and become a certified martial warrior. As long as your background is clean and you don't have any criminal records, it shouldn't be a problem. The entire process won't take more than half an hour. It's very fast. Wang Ting nodded as he contemplated. Really? You need to have a clean background and no criminal records to become a certified martial warrior? It looks like the authorities were strict with the standard of martial warriors. But, the martial warriors I met just killed people as and when they liked. Why is that so? Wait. I killed someone too. Is that considered a crime? If no one finds out about it, it shouldn't be considered, right? Wang Teng consoled himself by repeating this sentence like a heart mantra. Wang Teng, I will get the certification first then. Master Lu, all right. When you get your credentials, I can send it out right away. You will be able to receive your baby later tonight. Wang Teng was shocked. He asked. I can receive it tonight? That's really fast. What delivery service are you using? Master Lu, you will know when you receive your package. I have to skip my lesson again. It was morning, and he had just finished 2 lessons. Yet, something cropped up again. Wang Teng felt a little helpless. He said to Lin Chuhan, who was beside him, class monitor. Lin Chuhan was absent-minded. She wanted to ask Wang Ting for help, but she was hesitating. She didn't know how to open her mouth. When she heard Wang Ting calling her abruptly, she had a huge shock. What? Lin Chuhan almost jumped out of her seat. She turned her head warily and looked at Wang Ting. She thought that he had noticed her lack of focus and attention. Wang Ting was dumbfounded. I just called you. Do you have to give such a big reaction? He was speechless, but he had to continue. I need to go out and do something later. You understand. Wang Teng winked at Lin Chuhan. Lin Chuhan heaved a big sigh of relief. So he didn't see through her intentions. What a scare. Wait, you want to skip classes again? The university entrance exam is arriving soon. Do you have any sense of urgency at all? Don't worry. I won't do anything I'm not confident in. I'm leaving. Wang Ting waved his hand and walked out of the classroom. Lin Chuhan was slightly astounded. That was really daring of him. Can he really do it? Or was he just boasting? The Martial Arts Association was an official authority formed by different nations in the world to have unified management of the martial warriors. A martial warrior needed to register with the Martial Arts Association and get the martial warrior credentials to have a legal identity. Then, they would be able to get special privileges not enjoyed by ordinary people. For instance, martial warriors could kill people. Of course, this didn't mean that they could kill anyone whenever. They needed to have a valid reason. If not, they would be punished by law. Martial warriors could also use rune weapons. In public transportations like high-speed railways and airplanes, ordinary people were not allowed to carry weapons. However, martial warriors were able to keep weapons on them legally if they displayed their martial warrior credentials. There were many other benefits too. It was unwise to list them all one by one. Wang Teng researched online and found all these pieces of information. That was when he knew how important the martial warrior credential was to a martial warrior. Many things would become extremely convenient for him. Of course, if he received the martial warrior credential, it also meant that he was indirectly accepting the country's supervision. He wouldn't be able to disobey the law outrightly. This was to protect ordinary civilians. Powerful people used their power to break the law. These weren't words without evidence. When someone possessed great power, they would start to act without any fear. It was hard to control them. At the start of the martial arts era, many riots had occurred. As time went by, the country sent out a large number of martial warriors to suppress the violence. That was when those people who considered themselves invincible understood that the country was still their country. They couldn't act unbridledly whenever they wanted. Hence, the Martial Arts Association was indispensable. Chapter 50. Congratulations to my country. Donghai Martial Arts Association. Wang Ting stood at the huge entrance and looked at the building in front of him. The size had left him amazed. This was a high-rise building with a sharp octagon tower. The exterior was unique and iconic. From afar, among all the buildings in this area, the first noticeable thing was definitely this huge octagon building. A large crowd was walking back and forth in front of the building at this moment. Many people left and entered the building too. Wang Ting looked around him. These people were all exuding a faint sense of extraordinary. Most of these people are martial warriors. Wang Ting was flabbergasted by his guess as he exclaimed in his heart. He was mostly sure of it. This was the first time he had seen so many martial warriors. Wang Ting got a little nervous. He took a deep breath to calm his nerves. After exhaling, he walked into the huge building. When Wang Ting took a step in, many people focused their gazes at him. There was astonishment in their eyes as they sized him up. However, they couldn't see Wang Ting's face. This was because he was wearing an Ultraman mask. Everyone's gaze was a little strange. Some people indeed wore masks to apply for their martial arts credentials. After all, everyone had secrets. They didn't want to expose themselves. But this was the first time they saw someone so strange. He was wearing an Ultraman mask. This person must be a joke. Fortunately, they knew that no one dared to create trouble at the Martial Arts Association. Also, from the aura that Wang Teng released purposely, they could discern that he was a martial warrior. Thus, no matter how weird he seemed, no one would be so bored to create trouble for themselves. "Hello, I came to apply for the martial warrior certificate." Wang Teng came to the front desk and said to the staff opposite him. The staff member raised her head. It wasn't difficult to imagine her fascinating expression when she saw the Ultraman mask right before her eyes. She forcefully controlled her laughter and nodded sternly. "All right, follow me." Under her guidance, Wang Teng arrived outside another room. "Please go in. You just need to follow the instructions on the wall and operate the machine. If there's no problem, the system will enter your particulars into the system, and your martial warrior credentials will be out in less than 10 minutes. The staff raised her hand to signal to him as she explained the procedure to him. Wang Teng nodded while listening intently. After he entered the room, the staff closed the door behind him. Wang Teng scanned his surroundings and saw a machine right next to the wall. It looked like an ATM. A sense of familiarity rose in his heart. Beside the ATM-style machine, there was another machine that looked like the sleeping pod in fantasy movies. Wang Teng had used the physique inspection device at Jisin Martial House before. However, this machine looked much more complicated than the one in the Martial Arts Academy. Still, he knew that this was a physique inspection machine. It was just a machine that was designed for martial warriors. As compared to martial disciples, the physique of martial warriors would undergo huge changes. Thus, their physical inspection was far more complex. The production cost of this machine should be at least a few million. It was more than 10 times the cost of the physique inspection machines for martial disciples. Wang Teng took off his Ultraman mask. Based on the procedure, he came in front of the ATM-style machine and placed his identification card in the sensing area. "Please scan your fingerprint and retina." Wang Teng listened to the instruction and pasted his hands on the two palm drawings in front of him. At the same time, he looked right into the camera in front. Fingerprints collected. Beep. Retina scanning completed. Verifying identity. Approximately 3 minutes later, the voice sounded again. Identity verified. Wang Teng, 17 years old. Citizen of China. No criminal records. Clean background. Meet the 108 requirements to become a martial warrior. Verification passed. Please enter the physique inspection device for your physique inspection. Even though he knew that there was nothing wrong with his identity, Wang Teng was still a little nervous. He only let out a small breath of relief when he heard that he had passed the verification. He stepped into the physique inspection device next. The device's door closed slowly. It started scanning and inspecting his entire body. Wang Teng didn't know if it was his illusion, but he felt as though there was an invisible hand touching him from head to toe. At the same time, he felt his force nucleus tremble slightly for a moment. The force inside received some stimulation and got a little restless. The inspection ended very quickly. The automated voice rang in his ears again. Inspection ended. Wang Teng, congratulations on becoming a martial warrior. The martial warrior credential is being printed. Please wait patiently. At this moment, outside the entrance of the Martial Warrior Association, a black sedan stopped slowly. A man with spiky hair that looked like steel spikes came down the car. It was the principal of Jisin Martial House, Fu Tiandao. A refined middle-aged man came forward and welcomed him. He smiled and said, "Old Fu, you're really hard to meet. I invited you multiple times, but you only agreed to come today. There are many things to take care of at the Martial Arts Academy. I can't leave as I want," Fu Tiandao replied concisely. Seriously. The refined man felt a little helpless. He raised his fingers and pretended to tap the spiky hair man. "Didn't you say that you have prepared top-quality jade dragon tea from Xingwu continent? Hurry up and lead the way." Fu Tiandao looked at the refined man sideways as he said. Come, I've already prepared it. I was just waiting for you to come." The refined man laughed. He raised his hand and walked into the huge building first. While the two of them were chatting and walking, there was an uproar around them. Isn't that the principal of the Donghai branch Jisin Martial House, Fu Tiandao? To see him once is better than to hear about him 100 times. His aura is overwhelming. Of course. Do you know how powerful he is? He's able to represent the Donghai branch of Jisin Martial House. Donghai City is a huge and important city. This proves how powerful his ability is. Who is that refined man? He's actually able to invite Fu Tiandao over. Idiot, that is the president of the Donghai Branch Martial Arts Association, President Qin Hanxian. Oh my god, I'm blind. The real person is right in front of me, but I didn't recognize him. He is a powerful figure too. Discussions rang out in the vicinity. Even after Fu Tiandao and Qin Hanxian had left for a long time, everyone was still indulged in talking about their achievements. Everyone knew about their achievements, but as the iconic figures of Donghai City, the citizens of Donghai City never stopped pursuing and flattering them. Fu Tiandao and Qin Hanxian chatted with each other as they took the lift to the building's highest floor. They arrived at Qin Hanxian's office. The moment they entered the office, they could see an entire wall of floor-to-ceiling windows. It was right in front of the entrance. From this office, one could get a bird's-eye view of the entire Donghai City. It felt like standing on the highest peak and looking at the smaller mountains below. The coffee table was placed beside the floor-to-ceiling window. Have a seat, Qin Hanxian said casually. Your place is not bad, Fu Tiandao said calmly. He walked in front of the floor-to-ceiling window and gazed at the busy streets below. Qin Hanxian sat down and started making tea in a natural and graceful manner. The faint fragrance of tea wafted in the room. He said, "Sigh. It's lonely to be in a high position. It doesn't feel good to stay in this office every day." Pretentious. Fu Tiandao sneered. Nothing good comes out of your mouth. Have some tea. Have some tea. Qin Hanxian felt helpless as he poured tea for Fu Tiandao. Fu Tiandao sat down and took a sip. He savored it with closed eyes. Then, he opened his eyes and said, "Indeed, this is a good tea. Of course. I had to put down this old face of mine before I could take some tea from the governor," Qin Hanxian said proudly. "Where is Governor Jiang now?" Fu Tiandao raised his eyebrows and asked. "The last time I saw him, Governor Jiang was preparing to break through to the general stage." Qin Hanxian turned serious. "Oh, is he confident?" Fu Tiandao's expression changed, and he asked anxiously. "Based on what he said, he's around 60% confident," Qin Hanxian replied. 60%? That's too low. Why didn't he wait for a while longer? Fu Tiandao frowned and took a deep breath. "I heard that Governor Li of Jinlin has already reached general stage half a month ago." Qin Hanxian suddenly dropped an atom bomb. "What? Are you serious?" Fu Tiandao jumped to his feet. Sit down. Sit down. Of course, it's real. Do you think I will make such a mistake?" Qin Hanxian rolled his eyes. "We have another general now. Congratulations to my country." Fu Tiandao's eyes were shimmering. "It's indeed a matter worth celebrating." Qin Hanxian nodded in agreement. However, Governor Jiang is too reckless. How could he act on impulse? Fu Tiandao changed the topic back. He seemed a little worried. "You know that those two have been arch-enemies since they were in university. They fought for their entire life. How could Governor Jiang take this matter calmly?" Qin Hanxian explained with a bitter smile. "That is true. Fu Tiandao couldn't do anything either. I hope that Governor Jiang will be able to get through this obstacle smoothly. At that time, Donghai will be able to have another general stage martial warrior." Chapter 51. The interest of the two bosses. While Fu Tiandao and Qin Hanxian were chatting casually, the computer in the office gave off a sound. "What's the matter?" Fu Tiandao looked at Qin Hanxian. "Let me take a look." Qin Hanxian got up and walked in front of the computer. He saw a message pop up on his screen. He scanned the message and felt astounded. "Old Fu, come over and take a look," he shouted at Fu Tiandao, who was at the side. Fu Tiandao got up and walked over. This person became a martial warrior at 17 years old. Fu Tiandao was also slightly shocked when he saw the message on the screen. Upon reading Wang Ting's name, he frowned. Wang Ting. This name sounds a little familiar. Oh, do you know him? Qin Hanxian asked in surprise. Fu Tiandao thought for a moment before continuing abruptly, I remember him. A few days ago, one of my staff handed me a data report. If these two don't share the same surname and name, I think the report I received was about him. Open the surveillance camera to take a look. We will know if it's the same person. Qin Hanxian operated his computer, and within a second, the scene in Wang Ting's room was projected on the opposite wall. That's right, it's him. He looks the same as his picture. Fu Tiandao immediately recognized Wang Ting. Oh, right, what report were you talking about just now? The report shows that this fellow rose from a normal person to an advanced stage in less than a month after he joined our martial arts academy, Fu Tiandao replied. Haha, Wang Ting must have started his cultivation before he joined your martial arts academy. Look at his background. He's the third generation of Donghai's Wang family. His family probably doesn't lack resources and can let him practice martial arts. Qin Hanxian smiled and said. I think so too. At first, I wanted to observe him for a while more, but he has already become a martial warrior. It looks like he's really a genius, Fu Tiandao exclaimed. It was rare to see a 17-years-old martial warrior. Seems like there will be a black horse in the martial arts exam this year. Qin Hanxian smiled. Shall we take a look? Fu Tiandao tried his best to remain calm and indifferent, but he did seem very interested in this young lad. Sure, let's go together. Wang Ting didn't know that the moment he became a martial warrior, he had received the attention of two bosses. It was really scary. 10 minutes later, the printing of the martial warrior identification was completed. Looking at the black booklet in his hand, he smiled in glee. Wang Ting wore his 3D Ultraman mask and left the Martial Arts Association. When he returned to the school, the last morning lesson hadn't ended yet. Everyone was still in class, so Wang Ting didn't disturb the teacher's lecture. He arrived at the little forest and logged in to his Daobao. He entered his martial warrior credential and placed his order. This Master Lu was quite interesting. He didn't allow his customers to place orders if they didn't have a martial warrior credential. You could be stubborn with anything, but when it came to money, one must be flexible. Forget it. Looking at the other party's tone, he probably doesn't lack money. After placing the order, Wang Ting sent a message to hurry the stall owner. I've already placed my order. Please send the item as soon as possible. Master Lu. All right dear Epsilon sad smiley asterisk. The other party responded with one sentence. After some time, the lesson ended. Wang Ting met Xu Jie and his other friends in the cafeteria for lunch. He also saw Li Rongqing and Yuan Zhenghua, whom he hadn't seen for a few days. The moment Li Rongqing saw Wang Ting, his face turned black. After that day, Zhu Baiyun actually came to ask him about Wang Ting. At first, Zhu Baiyun viewed Li Rongqing with high importance. He felt that he had a chance to win the heart of this third young lady from the Zhu family. He had his whole life ahead planned. He would marry a rich beauty and proceed to the peak of his life. The Zhu family would definitely be a great help to him. At that time, he, Li Rongqing, would be a famous figure in Donghai City. He wouldn't just be a rich second generation relying on his father. However, Wang Ting, it just had to be Wang Ting again. This fellow had stolen the limelight that was supposed to be his. Even Zhu Baiyun got interested in Wang Ting. Damn it. Li Rongqing felt annoyed in his heart. Young Master Li, are you here for lunch too? Wang Ting casually greeted Li Rongqing when he saw him. Li Rongqing scoffed. He walked straight ahead. What's the matter? How did I provoke him again? Wang Ting asked Xu Jie, who was beside him, with a confused expression. Who knows? Xu Jie shrugged. During the afternoon rest time, Wang Ting went to practice in the small forest. He only returned to the classroom when the lesson started. It was the last day of the week, so he should give some respect to his teacher. 3 lessons ended quickly. After school, Wang Ting got up and prepared to go home. However, Lin Chuhan stopped him. You, wait for me. She bit her lip and seemed a little embarrassed. But, in the end, she still plucked up her courage and called Wang Ting out. Wang Ting had already noticed that she was a little absent-minded. Hence, when he saw her calling him, he stopped in his tracks. He wanted to know what she had on her mind. Lin Chuhan finished packing her bag and went out of the classroom with Wang Ting. The two walked to a secluded spot with no one around. Lin Chuhan started hesitating again, and her expression kept changing. One moment, she seemed helpless, while the next, she looked resolute. If you have any difficulties, you can just tell me, Wang Ting said in a soft voice. Maybe Wang Ting's gentle attitude had caused Lin Chuhan to cement her resolve. She took a deep breath and said, "Can you lend me some money?" After she said this sentence, Lin Chuhan seemed dejected. A hint of helplessness and bitterness flashed past her eyes. "How much do you need?" Wang Ting suddenly felt something touching his heart when he saw her expression. This girl had a hard life. He believed that Lin Chuhan must have reached a state of desperation to look for him to borrow money. If not, with her high self-esteem, she wouldn't talk to him about this at all. 150,000. Lin Chuhan found it hard to speak. She hurriedly continued, "I know it's a little too much, but I'll definitely return the money to you as soon as possible. After the university entrance exam, I will work part-time. Once I have the money, I will." Wang Ting was a little dumbfounded. He was a bit curious about the reason why Lin Chuhan needed such a huge sum of money. However, Wang Ting didn't probe further. He took out his phone and said, "Give me your Alipay account. I will transfer the money to you now." "Return the money to you." Lin Chuhan heard what Wang Ting said before she finished her sentence. Her eyes turned red, and she took a deep breath to calm down. Then, she forced a smile on her face and said, "Thank you. I will return the money to you as soon as possible." She emphasized this once again, as if this was the only way she was able to keep the remnants of self-esteem left in her heart. "There's no hurry. Just do what your strength allows." Wang Ting nodded. He scanned her Alipay account and transferred the money over. Many things were different in this world. For instance, Alipay supported transfers of large sums of money. There was no limit to the sum. Lin Chuhan thanked him once again and held her phone tightly. The 150,000 renminbi felt extremely heavy in her hand. Their family didn't even have this much savings during their prime. To a family like Wang Ting's, a few 100,000 might just be their pocket money. However, many normal families might not be able to save this amount of money even after many years. "I wonder what difficulty she's facing." Wang Ting looked at Lin Chuhan's back view as he wondered to himself. He felt a little worried, so he followed her secretly. Chapter 52. I just came to get rid of a few flies. Wang Ting followed Lin Chuhan all the way and noticed that she was just going home. He saw her entering her house from afar. Just as he was planning to leave, Wang Ting noticed a bunch of people walking over. The leader of the group was a bald man wearing a black suit. There were a few youngsters following him. They looked like gangsters. Wang Ting stopped in his tracks and lit a cigarette. He stood at the side of the road and started smoking. "What are you looking at? You little brat." The bald man wearing a black suit saw Wang Ting staring at them, so he scolded him fiercely. Wang Ting didn't say anything. He turned his head away. The bald man wearing a black suit didn't pester him, either. He just walked into Lin Chuhan's house angrily. Lin Chuhan's house was a 3-floor apartment. It looked really old. The first floor was the shop front, where they had opened a small convenience store. The bald man had barged into Lin Chuhan's family stall. He grabbed a bottle of Coke and took a swig. The middle-aged lady in the shop should be Lin Chuhan's mother. She stood at the side fearfully, not daring to say a single word to stop the man. After burping, the bald man turned and looked at the middle-aged woman. He said, "How is it? Have you prepared the money?" "Boss, my girl is already borrowing money from our relatives. Please spare us a few more days," the middle-aged woman pleaded. "Spare a few more days? I've already spared you 3. Is that not enough?" "Huh." The bald man wearing a black suit glared at the woman and kicked a box filled with candies beside him. The candies instantly flew and scattered everywhere. I think that you don't plan to return the money, right? Boss, we really have no such intentions. We just haven't gathered all the money yet. Please give us 2 or 3 more days. Please. The middle-aged woman got frightened and shrank in a corner. Her eyes were red as she spoke. Stop spouting nonsense. If you don't give me the money today, I'll destroy your stall. The bald man didn't show any intention of softening his attitude. You can't do this. Our entire family relies on this convenience store for a living. My daughter still needs to take her university entrance exam. If you smash our shop, how are we supposed to live? The middle-aged woman was so anxious that she started tearing up. Who cares about your lives? It looks like you can't return the money today. Do you think I'm doing charity? Hey, destroy this place. The bald man wearing a black suit arrogantly sat on the chair and waved his hand. His lackeys were about to smash the shop on his order. Stop. A voice came from upstairs. Lin Chuhan ran down the stairs. Upon returning home, she went to the bathroom. The moment she came out, she heard the commotion below and came down in a flurry. As expected, those people were here to look for them again. Hey! The bald man's eyes lit up when he saw Lin Chuhan. Why did you come down? The middle-aged woman panicked. She hurriedly pulled Lin Chuhan behind her and said to the bald man wearing a black suit, "Boss, my daughter is still young. This matter has nothing to do with her. Don't mind what she said. I don't think that she's young anymore." The bald man stood up, and his gaze roamed Lin Chuhan's body, as if a wolf was looking at its prey. Lin Chuhan didn't back down at all. She stood out from behind the middle-aged woman and said, "My family owes you 150,000, right? I can return it to you now. Take the money and get out of my house." Haha, you're quite bold. How can you have 150,000? The bald man wearing a black suit gave a contemptuous smile. You little girl, we don't have so much money. Lin Chuhan's mother frowned. She thought her daughter was fooling around, so she wanted to pull her behind her again. Lin Chuhan's mother understood the bald man's gaze too clearly. They weren't kind people. Her daughter was just a high school student. She couldn't fight with them at all. Lin Chuhan wasn't moved. Give us the receipt for the loan. I will transfer you the money now. Did this young lady really manage to get the money? She's so pretty, so there might really be someone willing to lend her money, the bald man wearing a black suit muttered to himself softly. He looked at Lin Chuhan's beautiful face that was full of vitality. His heart was burning with desire. He immediately thought of an idea and sneered. All right. As long as you return the money to us, we will leave. However, 150,000 renminbi was 3 days ago. 3 days have passed. Let me calculate. Now, you owe us 200,000. What do you think, little girl? Do you have 200,000? 200,000? It's been only 3 days. How did it increase to 200,000? Lin Chuhan's mother's face turned pale. It was hard to tell if it was because of fear or anger. You're despicable. Lin Chuhan's body trembled in anger. At first, they had only borrowed 100,000 from these people. Then, they told them that the interest for 3 months was 50,000. Their family couldn't afford to offend these loan sharks, so they bowed down to fate and went around asking for money. But, after so many years, they had already borrowed money from most of their relatives. All of them knew the condition of Lin Chuhan's family. Lin Chuhan's father was paralyzed in bed and didn't have the ability to work. Her younger sister was down with a strange illness. Only Mother Lin had opened a convenience store to support the entire family. Lending money to their family was like throwing it into a bottomless pit. They might be able to return small amounts of money, but no one dared to lend them a huge sum. A while ago, when Lin Chuhan took so much effort to put down her ego and borrow 150,000 from Wang Teng, she thought that she could finally clear this bad debt. She didn't expect the other party to be so despicable. Now, they wanted to add another 50,000 renminbi because they had delayed payment for 3 days. Little girl, don't talk nonsense. I'm such a righteous person. How can I be despicable? The bald man said nonchalantly. This is illegal. I can sue you, Lin Chuhan gritted her teeth. Go ahead. I won't stop you. However, it might be hard for you to continue opening your shop in the future. The bald man sneered. You. Lin Chuhan pointed at him. She was so angry that she couldn't speak. It looks like you still can't pay us back. This is difficult. How about this? I don't have a girlfriend. If you're willing to be my woman, I can forfeit this loan for your family, the bald man sniggered and said. That's impossible. Don't even think about it. Even if I can't open my shop anymore, don't even think about touching my daughter. Mother Lin was like a tigress exploding in anger. She blocked Lin Chuhan behind her and glared at the bald man wearing a black suit. Lin Chuhan's expression had also turned ugly. There was a hint of anxiousness in her eyes. She didn't expect the other party to have this intention. She had underestimated the evilness of a person's heart. In that case, we won't be polite anymore, the bald man gave a sinister smile. However, before he could finish his sentence, a voice sounded behind him. What do you want to be impolite for? The bald man turned his head. Brat, it's you. Wang Ting. Lin Chuhan also saw the newcomer. For some reason, she found a sense of reliance in her heart. Chimph, you know each other. The bald man wearing a black suit squinted and sized up Wang Teng. Are you trying to save the beauty? Save the beauty? Not really, Wang Teng thought for a moment before replying. Ha ha ha, look at how timid he is. The bald man burst out laughing. His lackeys started mocking and jeering at Wang Teng too. I just came to get rid of a few flies, Wang Teng continued calmly. The bald man's face turned black. He was actually looked down upon. The indifferent expression on this brat's face irked him tremendously. You are courting death, he said word by word. Chapter 53. Don't talk nonsense when you plan to run away. Tilda, how do I court death? Wang Ting tilted his head and asked. The bald man wearing a black suit. The lackeys. Lin Chuhan kept her face straight and tried her best not to laugh when she saw the confused expression of the gangsters. Mother Lin felt that this child was a little naughty. I wonder whose child he is. The bald man wearing a black suit flared up in anger. He pointed at Wang Ting and shouted, Beat him to death. The lackeys rushed towards Wang Ting at once. A few of them even took out knives from their pockets. Wang Ting retreated out of the convenience store. Once he moved, the gangsters also followed him out. They surrounded Wang Ting. Unfortunately, they were just normal people while Wang Ting was a martial warrior. Even if he had been just a martial disciple, dealing with these weaklings would be a piece of cake. He swung his fist and hit two gangsters at once. He knocked them to the floor, and a few teeth fell out of their mouth. Strength *1 strength *1 spirit *0. 1-0. Normal people will drop attributes too? There's even the spirit attribute. Wang Ting was surprised. Be careful. Behind you. Lin Chuhan rushed out and wanted to help. She was an intermediate stage martial disciple, after all. She could deal with these gangsters. But Wang Ting didn't give her a chance to act as he kicked his leg behind. The three gangsters with knives in their hands, who wanted to slash his waist, flew 3 meters out. They clutched their chests. Blood seeped out of the corner of their lips. Wang Ting hadn't used his full force. Still, the power of his kick was too much for the gangsters to handle. Strength *1 strength *1 strength *1 You're a martial disciple. The bald man's expression changed. He didn't expect that his lackeys couldn't even take a single blow from Wang Ting. Brat, you're forcing me to act. The bald man wearing a black suit took off his coat and walked in front of Wang Ting. I'm not forcing you to do anything. You don't have to fight, Wang Ting said. The bald man was stunned. He quickly shook his head to clear the unnecessary thoughts before shouting angrily, F***K, don't talk glibly. He circled Wang Ting, seemingly looking for Wang Ting's weakness. Wang Ting stood on the spot and waited for him to act first. However, after circling 2 rounds, the bald man suddenly ran off. He was running away. That was right, he ran away. He ditched his lackeys and ran away without turning back. To show his respect for the man's action, Wang Teng was slightly shocked. Lin Chuhan and Mother Lin were stunned too. When the bald man's lackeys saw their boss running away like a happy pig, they suddenly didn't know what expression to give. Young lad, this matter hasn't ended. Just wait and see. The bald man quickly ran to a corner of the road. Once he felt that he was a safe distance, he stopped, turned around, and shouted. Wang Ting shook his head. He scanned the floor around him and picked up a brick. His action scared the bald man. He turned around and ran away in fright. On the other side, Wang Ting calmly weighed the brick. He took aim for a second and threw the brick out. We tilde are. The bald man screamed in pain and fell to the ground. Spirit *0. One, did it really hit his head? Wang Teng looked at the spirit attribute that just dropped and pondered to himself. For some reason, when the lackeys saw this scene, they felt a little elated. Wang Teng slowly walked forward and squatted down to look at the bald man. This is why you shouldn't talk nonsense when you're running away. The bald man wearing a black suit covered his head. He felt his vision getting blurry. He took some time to get rid of this feeling before he raised his head. He glared at Wang Ting viciously. You're dead, brat. You're dead. We have martial disciples in our company too. They're advanced stage martial disciples, and there are a few of them. Just wait to die. Bitch, you're quite fierce. Wang Ting smiled. He raised the brick and smashed it on the bald man's face again. Crack. Splurt. The bald man's nose broke, and blood splattered out. It was so painful that he kept screaming shrilly like a pig being slaughtered. Spirit *0. One, Wang Ting's eyes lit up. I don't know if I'm dead, but I know that you're definitely dead. While speaking, Wang Ting raised the brick again under the other party's horrified gaze and smashed it down. At the start, the bald man was still quite tough. His gaze was fierce, and he glared at Wang Ting like a ruthless wolf. But, now, he was scared. This youth in front of him looked like a high school student with a smile on his face. His expression was calm and composed, but when he decided to act, it was really terrifying. Stop hitting me. I'm wrong, I will not do it again, please let me go. The bald man's face was severely bruised and swollen. He couldn't speak properly, so he sounded a little tongue-tied. There was only fear left in his mind. This young man was too ruthless. He was really ruthless. Ouch, this is so painful. I didn't want to hit you before, but I feel that you're not very convinced by me. So, I had to hit you reluctantly, Wang Ting said after he stopped beating the man. He didn't want to stop hitting the bald man. Instead, he had to stop because after dropping some spirit attributes, the bald man stopped dropping them no matter how much he hit him. What a pity. In total, spirit *0. For the bald man looked at the sky. Suddenly, he wanted to cry. Since you're so reluctant, you don't have to hit me. No one is forcing you. Mom, this person must be a devil. I want to go home. So, are you convinced or not? Asked Wang Teng. Yes, who? I'm convinced. The bald man nodded hurriedly. Wang Teng dumped the brick on his head again. Ah. Why are you hitting me now? The man screamed in terror. He was confused. Do you think you're playing mahjong? Who's asking you if you who, in Chinese, fu means convinced and who means a win in mahjong, or not? Wang Teng widened his eyes. The bald man was extremely frustrated. He even wanted to vomit blood. He kept quiet for a long time before saying a single word. Yes, fu. That's good. Wang Teng nodded. Bang. Unexpectedly, the bald man suffered a knock on his head again. Why? Tears welled up in his eyes. He felt so wronged, but he had nowhere to vent it. For no reason. I just don't like you, Wang Teng explained calmly. The bald man. Give me the loan receipt. The bald man obediently took out the loan receipt. Wang Teng called Lin Chuhan over and passed it to her. Take a look at it and see if this is the correct one. Lin Chuhan went back and confirmed with her mother. She returned and nodded. That's right. This is the one my dad and mom wrote. Wang Teng took it over and scanned it. He then mocked, they borrowed 100,000, and you wanted them to return 200,000? This is much easier than being a robber. He squatted down and waved the brick in front of the bald man's face. In the past, I met 5 people who wanted to rob a bank. They wanted to kill me, but do you know what happened to them in the end? The bald man suddenly remembered a piece of news he had heard a few days ago. A few robbers who robbed a bank got killed by someone. He heard that the person who killed them was a hostage. Also, the hostage was a high school student. The bald man looked at Wang Ting in fear. He couldn't help but tremble, his heart pounding in his chest. Bang! Wang Ting suddenly exerted force in his fingers and broke the brick in his hand. He said, "Look, this is what happened to them. Brother, I know my mistake. I was really wrong. Please spare me." The bald man really wanted to cry. He had come to get a loan back and tease a young lady along the way. Why did he have to offend this devil? He must have forgotten to look at the almanac when he went out this morning. That's right, this must be the reason. Wang Ting didn't scare him anymore. He said to Lin Chuhan, "Transfer the money to him. 100,100 renminbi. The additional 100 is the interest. Do you have any objections?" The last sentence was directed at the bald man wearing a black suit. No. The other party shook his head in a hurry. At this moment, he didn't dare to have any objection. He still wanted his head to be on his neck. He had heard that those robbers' heads were smashed into meat paste by the hostage. Oh my God, this was so scary. Lin Chuhan hurriedly transferred the money. Wang Teng took out a lighter and lit up the loan receipt right in front of the bald man. He burnt the whole piece of paper. Chapter 54. Family background. The bald man in a black suit left with a swollen and bruised face. His heart was filled with injustice and fear. He needed to go back to answer his boss. He knew that he wouldn't be able to get the interest for this loan. The other party was a powerful figure, the heartless kind that might shatter your head if he got angry. He couldn't afford to provoke him. His boss probably didn't want to offend this kind of person as well, right? Fortunately, he got back the loan amount. This trip wasn't a waste. But his face got smashed by the brick for nothing. Ouch. Pain. Sigh tilde. After getting rid of the loan sharks, Lin Chuhan heaved a sigh of relief. She said to Wang Ting, "Thank you for helping me just now." "It's nothing." Wang Ting shook his head. When he kept his lighter, he took the opportunity to light a cigarette. "Don't smoke anymore," Lin Chuhan suddenly said. "Huh. Smoking is bad for health," Lin Chuhan replied. "That is scary. Let me smoke a bit to calm down," Wang Ting answered. "Lin Chuhan. I'm just teasing you." Wang Ting threw the cigarette on the ground and extinguished it with his feet. It wasn't appropriate for him to smoke in front of a lady. "Oh, right. Why are you here?" Lin Chuhan suddenly asked. She was curious about his perfect timing. "Will you believe me if I say that I followed you?" Wang Ting smiled. Lin Chuhan's heart jumped. She turned her head and felt her ears turning warm. She put down her hair to cover it up. "I'm not talking to you anymore. I'll go and take a look at my mum." Lin Chuhan ran back to the convenience store and explained everything to her mother. She told her that the loan sharks were gone and the loan receipt had already been burnt. Mother Lin hugged Lin Chuhan and cried in joy. She almost went crazy from the torment these people had given her the past few days. "Oh right, little Han, who did you borrow the money from? Tell him that even though we don't have so much money now, we will definitely return it to him as quickly as possible." Mother Lin wiped her tears and said, "I borrowed it from him." Lin Chuhan looked in Wang Teng's direction. "Ah, he's just a young man. Where did he get all the money from?" Mother Lin was surprised. "His family runs a company," Lin Chuhan explained. Mother Lin was enlightened. Then, she suddenly thought of something and asked curiously, "Little Han, you?" Lin Chuhan looked at her mother's expression and immediately knew what she was thinking. She stomped her feet and complained sweetly, "Mom Tilda, what are you thinking? Here's my table buddy." All right. I'm not thinking about anything." "Mom is not thinking of anything," Mother Lin said quickly. "You little girl, why aren't you inviting him to our house? He did our family a huge favor. I want to personally thank him." Lin Chuhan wanted to call Wang Ting over, but she noticed that he was already walking towards them. My mom says that she wants to thank you personally, she told Wang Teng. That's right, little Ting. I hope you don't mind me calling you this way. I really have to thank you for this time. If not, our family wouldn't have known what to do. Mother Lin was full of gratitude. I don't mind. Auntie, Chu Han is my table buddy. She has helped me a lot, so I should help her when she has difficulties, Wang Teng replied. Good, good, little Han is lucky to have a table buddy like you. The more Mother Lin looked at Wang Teng, the more she liked him. This was a good child. He was just a little naughty. But, you could tell that he was a responsible person who had a bright future. He was polite, and he took care of little Han well. If he could be her son-in-law, that would be great. During the martial arts era, one could get married at 18 years old. Mother Lin felt that she could start considering her daughter's marriage. Stay here tonight for dinner. Mother Lin suddenly got enthusiastic. Auntie will go and buy some ingredients immediately. Little Han, take care of little Ting. After she finished speaking, she didn't give Wang Teng and Lin Chuhan any time to react. She directly rushed out of the door. Wang Teng and Lin Chuhan exchanged glances with each other. The atmosphere had become a little strange. Why don't I leave first, said Wang Teng. Leave your head. My mom has already gone out to buy food. If you leave, how will I explain to her when she comes back? Lin Chuhan rolled her eyes. Just find a random excuse. For instance, you can tell her that I have some urgent matters to attend to. Wang Teng gave her some suggestions. Lin Chuhan looked at Wang Teng. Why doesn't this fellow want to stay at my house? She was a little embarrassed, for sure, but Wang Teng's unwilling expression made her a little uncomfortable and unhappy. You can explain to her personally if you want to. I'm not explaining. Lin Chuhan glared at Wang Teng. All right, it's just a meal. I, Wang Teng, am not afraid at all. This was what Wang Teng said, but he looked as though he was going to the execution field. Lin Chuhan finally understood his emotions when she saw his reaction. This fellow wasn't actually unwilling, he was just a little scared. Usually, he didn't seem afraid of anything. She almost forgot that he was a teenage boy too. She couldn't help but laugh secretly behind his back. Wang Teng stood in the shop, uncertain of what to do. He looked at the candies scattered on the ground and went over to pick them up. Lin Chuhan regained her senses. Her gaze turned gentle as she looked at Wang Teng's back view. She squatted down and started cleaning the candies with him. I will transfer you the remaining money later, she remembered the leftover money and said. Okay. Wang Teng nodded. As for the 100,000 renminbi, I will work part-time during the summer vacation to return it to you, Lin Chuhan continued. That's not right. It's 100,100 renminbi, Wang Teng smiled and replied. Yes, it's 100,100. You're such a miser. Lin Chuhan rolled her eyes. Ha ha ha, Wang Teng laughed casually. He didn't mind her reaction. Lin Chuhan didn't realize that the respect hidden in his words was what allowed them to continue their relationship as normal. They didn't suffer any estrangement because of this matter. After some time, Mother Lin came back with the ingredients. She was carrying many bags in her hands and had bought a lot of fish meat. Little Teng, you can sit upstairs with Chuhan. I'll go and make food. Mother Lin greeted them before she got busy in the kitchen. Come on, let's go upstairs. Lin Chuhan led Wang Teng up the stairs. Isn't uncle around? Wang Teng asked. Lin Chuhan bit her lips as she said, Hes here. I'll bring you to see him. Wang Teng saw Lin Chuhan's father. He was a drunk and skinny man, and his legs were gone. How did your father become like this? Wang Teng was really shocked. My father used to be a martial warrior. One day, after coming back from the Xingwu continent, he became like this. His teammates managed to save him after much difficulty, but his legs were gone. Even his force nucleus was broken. He came a crippled, Lin Chuhan explained in low spirits. This, Wang Teng knew that the martial arts world wasn't as beautiful as the public made it out to be, but he didn't expect it to be so cruel. He even felt a little frightened when he saw the ghastly wounds on Father Lin's body. Also, he didn't think Lin Chuhan's father could be a martial warrior. Since you know how brutal the martial arts world is, why do you still practice martial arts? Why do you still want to take part in the martial arts exam? Wang Teng couldn't help but ask her. I want to take revenge. Lin Chuhan closed the door and gritted her teeth as she said. It's caused by someone? Wang Ting was flabbergasted once again. My dad's teammates say that he became like this because their opponents had set a trap, Lin Chuhan explained. Chapter 55, Demon Lotus Poison Body. Wang Ting suddenly remembered that in his past life, he had heard about Lin Chuhan's paralyzed father. Unexpectedly, in this lifetime, her situation was still the same. But, in this lifetime, Lin Chuhan's father was a martial warrior and became paralyzed because of other people's plots. Oh right, what about your father's teammates? Don't they know the situation in your family? Asked Wang Teng. In the past, they helped us a lot. However, most of their time is spent in Xingwu continent. Sometimes, they might not be able to come back for a few months. This time, they are already away for half a year. Half a month ago, my younger sister's illness suddenly flared up. My mom had no choice. With other people's recommendation, she could only borrow money from those people to pay for my sister's treatment fees, Lin Chuhan said. You still have a younger sister? What illness does she have? Wang Teng realized that he knew nothing about Lin Chuhan's family. I always had a younger sister. You just don't know about her. Her illness, sigh, it will be good if we could know what illness it is. That way, we won't be at a loss of what to do. Lin Chuhan sighed. As she spoke, she brought Wang Ting to the door of another room and knocked. Chuxia, I brought a friend over. Can I come in? Come tilde in tilde. A young lady's faint voice came from the room. The way she spoke was very strange. She spoke a word for word, but there was no break in between the words. She seemed a little feeble and lifeless. If one suddenly heard this voice in the middle of the night in the dark, they would probably pee in their pants. Wang Ting felt goosebumps appearing on his skin. Lin Chuhan gave a dry laugh. Please don't mind her. My sister has always been like this. She pushed the door open, creak tilde. The wooden door gave a shrill screech due to the friction on the hinges. The room was dark. The curtain was closed tightly, and no ounce of light was able to enter the room. Wang Ting scanned the room. There was no human in sight at all. But he saw a sea of bubbles. What is this? Wang Ting was dumbfounded in an instant. Attribute bubbles filled up the entire room. They were on the ground, the table, the chair, the bed, in front of the cupboard. They were everywhere. The room was densely populated with big and small bubbles. Wang Ting swallowed his saliva. He couldn't wait to enter the room. Don't. Lin Chuhan stopped him in a hurry. Then, she reminded him, I think you better follow behind me. Remember not to get too close later. Why? Wang Teng was puzzled. I'll tell you later, said Lin Chuhan in a low voice. Then, she entered the room first and spoke to a corner between the legs of the bed and the wall. Chuxia, sis is coming in. Wang Ting followed her gaze and finally saw a young lady hugging her knees in a blind spot at the corner of the bed. Her head was buried between her knees. She had long black hair, flowing straight down smoothly. The hair was long, black, and straight. He looked at Lin Chuhan. Yes, they looked the same. Then, his focus turned to the attribute bubbles scattered around him. He was already full of anticipation. What kind of attribute bubbles are these? This was the first time he saw a normal person dropping so many attribute bubbles. Even more, these bubbles had dropped naturally. This was very abnormal. Could it be related to Chuhan's younger sister's strange illness? Wang Teng guessed secretly. Then, he lightly touched the bubbles beside him. He picked them up. Poison Force *2 Poison Force *1 Demon Lotus Poison Body *1 Instantly, Wang Teng felt something changing in his body. He sensed a strange, rare force in this world. Poison Force. This kind of force actually existed. Wang Ting was dumbfounded. After that, the Poison Force entered Wang Ting's body. He had never practiced any Poison Force skill scriptures before, so the Poison Force instantly exploded and started running helter-skelter in his body. Damn it! Wang Ting was astounded. If someone observed the skin on his body and his face, they would notice that there was a layer of purple-red color in them. He looked as though he got poisoned. However, the occult energy immediately pacified the poison force and congregated all of it in the force nucleus. It soon formed an equilibrium with the other three forces in the nucleus. The strange color on his skin subsided within a second like the waves of the sea. "What's wrong with you?" Lin Chuhan turned her head and asked. "Oh, I'm fine." Wang Teng regained his composure and smiled. At the same time, the young lady squatting in the corner seemed to have sensed something. She raised her head and curiously looked at Wang Teng. Wang Teng's heart jumped a little when he saw the young lady's appearance. The frame of her face was very similar to Lin Chuhan's. She should be a pretty lady too. However, there were purple-red poison spots on both sides of her cheeks. They covered more than half of her face. The poison spots were rough and bumpy. They looked extremely disgusting. They destroyed all the beauty on the face and even made it hideous and terrifying. It was hard to look at her face for long. Wang Ting stared into the eyes of the young lady. His heart skipped a beat, but he didn't feel any loathing towards her. He just felt that the young lady was very pitiful. She was at the prime of her life, but she could only hide in the darkness of her room. She couldn't live like a normal person. She didn't even dare to take a single step out of her house. Wang Ting could imagine how much hate and jeers she must have received in the past. This should be the strange illness Lin Chuhan was talking about. Demon lotus poison body. This must be a very rare physique. If it wasn't, Lin Chuhan's father would have found a cure a long time ago since he was a martial warrior. They wouldn't be at a loss even until now. If the martial warriors couldn't find a solution for this kind of physique, the current medical industry wouldn't be able to find a cure either. The martial arts era and the technology era were two different systems. Before the martial arts era started, this physique had never appeared. Therefore, there were no successful cases of treatment in the medical industry. The solution might only be found in the Xingwu continent. "Sister Tilda, who is he?" The young lady sized up Wang Teng again. However, the feeling she had just now had disappeared. A hint of disappointment flashed in her eyes. "His name is Wang Ting. He's my friend." Lin Chuhan squatted down in front of the young lady, but she didn't get too close to her. There was at least 1 meter distance between them. Wang Ting kind of understood why Lin Chuhan didn't allow him to get close to her younger sister. Right now, he could feel poison force continuously surging out of the young lady's body. The air around her was saturated with poison force. If an ordinary person got too close, they would definitely get affected. If the interaction was too long, they would be poisoned. In severe cases, they might die immediately. This was how horrifying the demon lotus poison body was. "Is he my brother-in-law Tilda?" the young lady suddenly asked Lin Chuhan. "Fart. Brother-in-law?" Lin Chuhan was dumbstruck. Her entire face turned red within a split second. "Stupid girl, what are you saying? He's not your brother-in-law." Wang Teng almost burst out laughing. This young lady was such a good assist. "Oh Tilda," the young lady tilted her head and gave an ambiguous response. There were no emotional changes on her face. Lin Chuhan felt helpless. She got up and said to Wang Ting, "This is my younger sister, Lin Chuxia. Don't mind what she said. Why are you so nervous?" Wang Ting made fun of her. "I'm not nervous." Lin Chuhan got nervous because of his stare. Wang Ting smiled. Then, he stepped past Lin Chuhan and walked towards Lin Chuxia. "Don't go over." Lin Chuhan wanted to stop him quickly. "It's fine." Wang Ting waved his hand. Before Lin Chuhan could block him, he had already squatted down in front of Lin Chuxia. He lifted his hand. "Hello." Chapter 56. Am I walking in the wrong direction? Lin Chuxia's eyes widened slightly as she looked at Wang Teng's stretched out hand in front of her. Lin Chuhan was also shocked by Wang Teng's sudden action. She was the one who had the best understanding of her younger sister's condition. Anyone who got within 1 meter radius of her would get affected, much less direct body interaction. She wanted to stop Wang Teng, but Lin Chuxia opened her mouth first. "Aren't you afraid of me?" "Afraid of what?" asked Wang Ting. Afraid of my face. Afraid of the air around me. Look at me. Do you think I seem affected? Wang Ting smiled and asked. Lin Chuhan, who was standing beside them, was astounded. She stared at Wang Ting in disbelief. Indeed, a normal person would have already felt uncomfortable at such a close distance. Their faces would start turning green too. However, Wang Ting looked unaffected. Wang Ting, it's probably because I always drink goji berry tea, so my immunity is better, Wang Ting said in all seriousness. Lin Chuhan, what do you mean by your immunity is stronger because you drink goji berry tea? Do you think I'm stupid? Why can't you be more serious? This is a serious matter. Lin Chuxia observed him for a long time. At last, her eyes lit up, and she continued, You really look all right, Tilda. She slowly stretched out her hand. She was a little hesitant at first, but she still held Wang Ting's palm. The next second, Lin Chuxia was dumbstruck. She didn't know how to explain this feeling. A cold stream of air seemed to have stirred up in her body. It started flowing around her limbs and bones, rejuvenating her. Just as she was about to inquire about it, she saw Wang Ting winking at her mysteriously. The words at the edge of her lips stopped right there. Wang Ting smiled gently and released Lin Chuxia's hand. He then stood up. At the same time, he didn't forget to collect the attribute bubbles around her. Demon Lotus Poison Body *7 Poison Force *15 Undoubtedly, the number of attribute bubbles around her body was the most. After picking up everything, Wang Ting felt that the Demon Lotus Poison Body within him was becoming more and more complete. The poison force in his body had also increased. On the other hand, Lin Chuxia felt the pressurizing and sticky feeling in the air around her, which made her feel like there was a layer of liquid covering her, disappear suddenly. But she didn't probe further. She just curiously sized up Wang Ting. A bud of hope had bloomed in her heart. Lin Chuhan had been observing Wang Ting from the start. She keenly noticed that he wasn't affected even after the physical interaction. While she heaved a sigh of relief, she felt even more puzzled. Wang Ting, what on earth is happening? Why aren't you affected by my sister's weird illness? I don't know either. Maybe it's really because my immunity is stronger. Wang Ting didn't tell Lin Chuhan the truth. Right now, he didn't know how to solve Lin Chuxia's illness. If he said anything, it would just make Lin Chuhan happy for nothing. He would tell her when he had some direction. It wouldn't be too late then. As for Lin Chuxia, he let her know about it because he wanted her to have some hope. If a young lady like her lived her life hopelessly every day, there would be problems sooner or later. Lin Chuhan curiously sized up Wang Ting. If you really know something, I hope that you can tell me. This is extremely important to my family, she said seriously in the end. Sister, don't make things difficult for brother-in-law, said Lin Chuxia. I've already said that he's not your brother-in-law. Lin Chuhan was speechless. Don't worry. If I really have a solution, I will tell you right away, Wang Ting promised. Lin Chuhan nodded. She seemed a little dejected when she saw that Wang Ting didn't have a solution. After some time, she lifted up her spirits and squatted down. She then said to Lin Chuxia in a serious tone, Chuxia, don't worry. I've already applied for the martial arts exam. I'll definitely become a martial warrior in the future and help you to find a treatment for your strange illness. Sister, I thought that Mom doesn't allow you to practice martial arts. Lin Chuxia exclaimed in surprise. Lin Chuhan hurriedly raised her forefinger and placed it beside her lips. Sure, speak softer. You can't let Mom know about this matter. Wang Ting was speechless. Why are you asking your younger sister to speak softer? Who was the one speaking so loudly just now? However, he finally understood why Lin Chuhan didn't tell her mother about her application for the martial arts exam. What happened to Lin Chuhan's father must have stimulated Mother Lin greatly. As a mother, how could she allow her daughter to follow in her husband's footsteps? Even if there was just a slight possibility, she would kill the problem in the cradle. Dinner wasn't ready, so Wang Ting and Lin Chuhan stayed in the room and chatted with her. Lin Chuhan was happy that another person was hanging around with Lin Chuxia. Usually, only Mother Lin and she were able to accompany Lin Chuxia. This young lady was too lonely. Wang Ting used the free time in the middle of the chat to pick up all the attribute bubbles in the room. Demon Lotus Poison Body *5 Poison Force *12. He pulled out his attributes panel to take a look. Enlightenment, 90 Spirit, 26 Talent. Beginner Stage Fire Talent, 11,300. Beginner Stage Ice Talent, 13,300. Beginner Stage Earth Talent, 12,300. Spiritual Sight, Beginner Stage 1. 1/10. Demon Lotus Poison Body, 15,10,000. Force, 64,100. Fire, 1-star Soldier Level Martial Warrior, 8,100. Ice, 1-star Soldier Level Martial Warrior, 7,100. Earth, 1-star Soldier Level Martial Warrior, 3,100. Poison, 1-star Soldier Level Martial Warrior. Scripture, Red Flame Scripture, Foundation 2,100. Defy Scripture, Foundation 12,100. Earth Lure Skill Earth Element Shield, Foundation 15,100. Battle Techniques, Basic Battle Techniques, Mastery for Fist, Sword, Blade, Footwork. Basic Stick Skill, Foundation, Gun Skill, Small Achievement, Fire Kareen Sword Skill, Foundation 43,100. Phantom Ice Fist, Foundation 13,100. Knowledge, Basic Subjects, Full Marks, 5 years of Martial Arts Exam, 3 years of Mock Papers, 80 points, Overall Battle Power, 218. Blank Attribute, 0. He could see the additional Demon Lotus Poison Body in his talent column. Wang Ting felt that this physique was powerful. He looked at its upper limit, 10,000. How long was he supposed to collect this attribute? But it also reflected how extraordinary and amazing this Demon Lotus Poison Body was. Then, he turned to look at the Poison Force. It had already reached 30 points, higher than the Ice Force and Earth Force. This poison baby Lin Chuxia had plenty of reserves. Wang Ting couldn't help but exclaim to himself. At this moment, he already had a general plan of how to use the Poison Force. In the future, while fighting with his opponents, he would secretly mix some Poison Force into his other forces. He would poison his opponents before they could understand what happened. TSK, this is perfect. He seemed to be walking further and further on the path of becoming a sinister fellow. Am I walking in the wrong direction? Wang Ting examined his conscience and asked himself. After some time, Mother Lin finished cooking dinner and called them to eat. When she saw Wang Ting and Lin Chuxia interacting harmoniously, she was elated. She even asked Wang Ting to visit their house more often in the future. On the dinner table, only Mother Lin, Lin Chuhan, and Wang Ting were present. Father Lin was dead drunk. He was unconscious now. Lin Chuxia wasn't able to join them. Mother Lin had carried the dishes into the room for her. On the dining table, Wang Ting felt really uncomfortable because of Mother Lin's enthusiasm. The rice bowl in front of him was piled high with rice, looking like a small hill. Wang Ting was dumbstruck. Lin Chuhan laughed secretly at the side when she saw Wang Ting's awkward expression. After dinner, Wang Ting almost ran away in a flurry. Remember to come often to play, Mother Lin reminded him as she sent him to the door. Lin Chuhan and Wang Ting walked to the main road together. Wang Ting's sports car was parked at the side of the road. He stopped walking and opened the car door. Hurry up and go home. Lin Chuhan nodded. She said, thank you for everything today. Wang Ting waved his hand and drove away in his car. Lin Chuhan stood rooted on her spot. No one knew what she was thinking. She just blankly stared into space for a long while. Chapter 57, Round Face Fat Chicken, Mission Guarantee. After leaving Lin Chuhan's house, Wang Ting drove his car towards Jisin Martial House. Before this, he had called his family. He found another excuse to throw them off. He didn't dare to tell his parents that he ate at Lin Chuhan's house. If not, based on how gossipy his parents were, he honestly didn't know what they would do. He didn't even dare to think about it. Not long after, he arrived at Jisin Martial House. Wang Ting went straight to the 3rd floor of the training building. He started collecting attribute bubbles. After one night and the accumulation of the previous nights, his basic footwork, basic blade skill, basic sword skill, and basic fist skill had finally reached the presence enlightenment stage. Now, a casual punch of his fist, slash of his sword, and wave of his blade came along with the force of presence. In a battle, He was able to frighten his opponent with his presence first. Even his footwork possessed the ability of illusion. It became even harder to predict his movements. Although they were all basic battle techniques, once they reached the presence enlightenment stage, they were able to unleash extraordinary potential. Wang Teng felt relieved. Now, his basic battle techniques had attained the peak. He was unable to upgrade them anymore. He also realized that the attribute bubbles of these battle techniques never appeared again. He wasn't able to pick them up even if he wanted to. Farewell forever. I will miss you. Besides this, after the past few days of picking up attributes and today's attribute collection, his basic stick skill reached the big achievement stage. Next would be perfected, mastery, and presence enlightenment. At 11 p.m., Wang Teng left Jisin Martial House and returned home. He finished the supper Li Xiaomei had prepared and went upstairs to take a bath. He felt so comfortable that he breathed out and prepared to lie down to rest. Suddenly, a series of knocks came from outside his window. What is it? Wang Teng jumped up and subconsciously used his spiritual sight to look out of the window. There was a ball of blue light. It wasn't strong, but it was indeed the light of force. Dull blue, what attribute is this? Wang Teng heaved a sigh of relief. This level of force wasn't a threat to him. At the same time, he was confused. He had never seen an attribute in this color before. Knock, knock, knock. The living creature outside the window knocked on the window impatiently. I think it's a bird. But, how did it fly here? He went to the window while remaining on full alert. Wang Teng opened the window. It was a Scotland round-face fat chicken. He was slightly shocked. Wang Teng shifted his gaze downwards and saw a rectangular object placed beside the feet of this round-face fat chicken. The object was packaged tightly. There was a line on the package: Owl Delivery, Mission Guarantee, Delivery. And it says Mission Guarantee. Is this really the martial arts era? This world is not invaded by the magical world. Wang Teng realized that he was really a frog in a well. He took some time to regain his senses before accepting the fact that this was a delivery. Suddenly, he remembered something and hurriedly took out his phone to contact the owner, Master Lu. He took a picture and sent it to the owner. Wang Teng, is this your delivery? Master Lu, yes, dear. Are you surprised? Are you amazed? Are you happy? The other party responded within a second. Even though it was almost midnight, he still replied immediately. Is this shop owner in front of his computer 24 hours a day? Also, what did he mean by surprised, amazed, and happy? Can he not act so naughty to me? Right now, he finally understood why Master Lu was so secretive. Who would have thought that the delivery would be made by an owl? Was the world of martial warriors so magical? Also, the owner, Master Lu, didn't lie. This delivery was really fast. It was a trans-provincial delivery. It was sent in the afternoon and actually arrived at night. This was amazing. Wang Teng replied, can this round-face fat chicken be eaten? I suddenly want to eat barbecue. Master Lu, round-face fat chicken? Master Lu, barbecue? The other party was utterly stunned. At a moment like this, shouldn't he feel surprised and elated? Why did he want to eat the round-face fat chicken? What kind of mentality was this? Phut, what round-face fat chicken? It was an owl. Master Lu, why don't I help you order some food? Wang Teng, the other party actually believed me. At this moment, the round-face fat chicken got even more impatient. It started crowing a few times. It would never guess what kind of evil thoughts the person in front of it had. I'm sorry. Thanks for waiting. After he finished speaking, he remembered that this wasn't a delivery man. It was an owl. However, the owl had a look of disdain on its face. A look of disdain. F***K, who could even imagine an owl giving a look of disdain? Wang Teng took a deep breath and tried his best to gather his broken vision of the world. He then untied the package on the owl's feet. There was a small bag hung around the owl's body. At this moment, the owl used its claws to take a receipt and a pen out from the bag and placed them in front of Wang Teng. This round-face fat chicken was so smart that it made Wang Teng dumbfounded. He scanned through the receipt before signing his name on it. The owl put the receipt and pen back in the bag and cooed. Then, it flew off. It was so swift that it disappeared in the night sky in a blink of an eye. Wang Teng looked at the back view of the round face fat chicken. His mind was filled with the owl delivery, mission guarantee. The line kept flashing in his mind. He quickly shook his head. Wang Teng closed the window and went back to his bed. He then excitedly opened the package. A black wooden box was revealed. Weapon carrier casket. Wang Ting stroked the silver runes on the weapon carrier casket. The more he looked at it, the more he liked it. The owner was very thoughtful and even gave him a black handbag as a gift. He was able to carry it in his hand or on his back as a backpack. If he placed the weapon carrier casket in the bag and zipped it, other people wouldn't be able to tell what was inside. Perfect. The next day, it was Saturday. Wang Teng continued his routine of visiting Jisin Martial House. Along the way, he greeted the students that he was familiar with. Brother Peng, you're really early. How hardworking. Hey, young man, exercise is youth. Hurry up and start practicing. Peng Hai had perspiration all over his face. He revealed his bronze skin and raised his thumb as he gave Wang Ting a wide smile. He was the senior brother who had taught Wang Ting the 9th set of radio exercises. When Wang Ting went to the 3rd floor for the first time, he had met Peng Hai not long after. Upon seeing Wang Ting, the guy was extremely shocked. After all, when he first saw Wang Teng was still a newbie who didn't know how to do the 9th set of radio exercises properly. Well, he still didn't know how to do it. But that wasn't the main point. The most important thing was, Wang Teng became an advanced stage martial disciple. When faced with this question, Wang Teng still used the same reason to slip his way through. He told his senior that he had practiced martial arts before. As for the 9th set of radio exercises, it was all history. Many children from wealthy families didn't like to do this exercise. After all, it was very embarrassing. They had better ways to train their physique. Thus, Peng Hai didn't dwell on this too much. You little brat came late today. Hurry up and duel with me. When Zhong Xiaoyang saw Wang Teng, his eyes turned into light bulbs. He pulled Wang Ting and wanted to practice his fist skill with him. Have you forgotten how badly you lost the other time? How could you have the face to fight with me? Wang Ting teased him. Ever since Wang Ting's basic fist skill entered the mastery realm, Zhong Xiaoyang never beat him anymore. Now, his basic fist skill had reached the presence enlightenment stage. If they had a duel again, hihi. My fist skill improved greatly after sparring with you. It's almost at the mastery stage now. This time, I won't lose to you again, Zhong Xiaoyang scoffed and said in a proud tone. Since you are looking for a beating so wholeheartedly, it'll satisfy you. Wang Ting didn't say anything more. He shook his head and gave him a look of concern, as though he was looking at an idiot. It's hard to tell who will lose. Zhong Xiaoyang was furious. He clenched his fist and attacked Wang Ting. A few minutes later, Zhong Xiaoyang covered his eyes. F***K, don't you know that you shouldn't hit someone's face? Why are you so vicious? You should feel fortunate that I only hit your face. You attacked the lower part of my body just now. If it was someone I didn't know, I'd have beaten him up until he questioned his life. Wang Ting sneered. Zhong Xiaoyang laughed awkwardly. Who asked you to be so perverted? You have actually reached the presence enlightenment stage. There's no way I can retaliate. That's why I used this treacherous method. It's the only thing I could use. TSK, so it's my fault? Who was the one asking for abuse just now? Wang Ting looked at him with contempt. F***K. Zhong Xiaoyang was speechless. He indeed seemed to be asking for it just a few minutes ago. He didn't dare to ask Wang Ting for a duel anymore. He muttered to himself as he walked to the side and started practicing his fist skills on his own. Wang Ting shook his head. The gap between the two of them was getting wider and wider. There was no point in sparring with him. He turned around and saw an attribute bubble that had just disappeared. His heart pained for a second before he started collecting all the other bubbles immediately. Wang Teng, have never stopped wanting to become stronger. Strength *2 speed *1 spirit *0. 3 basic stick skill *3 blank attribute *3 spirit *0. 5 her. Wang Teng was shocked. It appeared. The blank attribute appeared again, blank attribute *3. Wang Teng thought for a moment and directly added the 3 points of the blank attribute to his spiritual sight. Until now, he had never discovered any attributes that were able to raise his spiritual sight talent. Hence, he could only use his blank attribute. One day ended. Before he slept, Wang Teng pulled out the attributes panel. Enlightenment, 93 spirit, 31 talent. Beginner stage fire talent, 11,300. Beginner stage ice talent, 13,300. Beginner stage earth talent, 12,300. Spiritual sight, beginner stage 1, 4/10. Demon lotus poison body, 15,10,000. Force, 64,100. Fire, 1-star soldier level martial warrior, 8,100. Ice, 1-star soldier level martial warrior, 7,100. Earth, 1-star soldier level martial warrior, 3,100. Poison, 1-star soldier level martial warrior. Scripture, red flame scripture. Foundation 2100, deep. Ice scripture, foundation 12,100. Earth lure skill earth element shield, foundation 15,100. Battle techniques. Basic battle techniques, presence enlightenment for fist, sword, blade, footwork. Basic stick skill, perfected. Gun skill, small achievement. Fire Kirin sword skill, foundation 43,100. Phantom ice fist, foundation 13,100. Knowledge. Basic subjects, full marks, 5 years of martial arts exam, 3 years of mock papers, 80 points. Overall battle power, 221. Blank attribute, 0. Wang Teng was satisfied as he looked at the changes on top. Recently, both his enlightenment and spirit had increased, and it had a direct effect on him. His mind felt clearer and sharper, and he seemed to have become quicker in his thinking. After adding 3 blank attributes to his spiritual sight talent, it was at 1.4 points now. The number seemed a little sad, but at least it had increased. Also, because Wang Teng only focused on his basic stick skill today, this technique rose really quickly. After 1 day of accumulation, it jumped another level and reached the perfected stage. On the other hand, his gun skill remained the same. Ever since killing the bank robbers, he had never seen another gun skill attribute. Rune guns were popular weapons. Many martial warriors practiced gun skills, and their skills had reached a high degree of technical proficiency. Its power was astonishing. Wang Teng didn't belittle the uses of gun skill. This skill had helped him kill a martial warrior in the past. Thus, if he had a chance, he would increase his gun skill attribute too. Being a sharpshooter was a good persona tilde pew tilde if he couldn't solve something with one shot, head use too. It was very tiring to be half dead. Chapter 58. There's one person who has godlike gun skills. Sunday. Owl Marksmanship Club. Wang Teng parked his sports car at the main entrance and threw his car keys to the doorman to park his car. Then, he stepped into the lobby of the club. The Owl Marksmanship Club was a high-class place for the wealthy of the society. It was extremely famous in Donghai. This was the first choice of many wealthy young masters and rich young ladies who loved to play with guns. As the club was crowded with gun enthusiasts, there must be many attributes that would drop. Although most of them were here for thrill and excitement and were not professionals, there were bound to be some who possessed real skills. Wang Teng went to the front desk to finish the application process. He paid the money and immediately became a member of the club. The staff treated him with respect. This was how amazing it felt to become a member. Under the guidance of a beauty wearing a black sheath dress, Wang Teng arrived at the target field. He scanned the surroundings, and a smile appeared at the corner of his lips. Many attribute bubbles were floating on the ground. 1, 2, 3. Wang Teng knew that he didn't waste his trip here. He didn't waste his money to apply for the membership either. The beauty wearing a sheath dress explained some details to him. Then, Wang Teng asked her to leave. He started wandering around the place himself. Gun skill *2 gun skill *1 gun skill *1 Wang Ting almost wanted to laugh out loud when he saw his gun skill attribute increasing continuously. All sorts of marksmanship techniques appeared in his mind. At the same time, his body's familiarity with guns became stronger and stronger. His eyes grew sharper, and his accuracy increased a whole lot. He felt that as long as he held a gun, he would be able to apply some tricky maneuvers easily. He could also shoot an object 100 meters away without breaking a sweat. This feeling was exhilarating. As his gun skill attribute increased without pausing, Wang Teng's hand suddenly got itchy when he saw other people having fun. Thus, he ran to the staff and got himself a gun. He found an empty spot and started fulfilling his addiction. Wang Teng first familiarized himself with the gun in his hand. This was a rune gun from the Owl series. The design was rugged and handsome, with a wild kind of beauty to it. Only people who loved guns would be able to appreciate it, though. He raised his gun and aimed at the target. His actions were smooth. He did everything right from the start to the end in a single move. It seemed as though he was a professional who had played with guns for many years. Bang! He pulled the trigger. The body of the gun vibrated. A normal person wouldn't be able to withstand the force of the recoil, but Wang Teng's hand was extremely stable. It didn't shake at all. Bang, bang, bang. He didn't stop at just that. Wang Teng fired a few more shots, and his posture didn't change the whole time. However, someone with sharp eyes would be able to notice that he adjusted his wrist and elbow slightly every time he fired. He didn't stay in the same position throughout the entire duration. 10 points. Wang Teng put down his gun while feeling a little unsatisfied. The difficulty was too low. He couldn't enjoy himself thoroughly. He continued picking up attributes. Occasionally, he would fire a few shots to cover up his actions. If not, he would be too conspicuous, attracting other people's attention. Good. Good gun skill. A shout was suddenly heard. Wang Teng walked over and noticed a bunch of people gathered together. They were watching a middle-aged man firing his gun. The man had a number 2 haircut. His face was firm and stern, faintly exuding the aura of a soldier. At this moment, he was hitting the moving targets. He fired occasionally and would hit the bull's-eye every single time. The other non-professionals at the side couldn't help but cheer for him. Finally, someone who has good skills. Wang Teng's eyes lit up. He squeezed through the crowd and inched closer to the man. He then picked up the attributes on the ground. Gun skill *10 gun skill *7 gun skill *13 Impressive. The attributes this man dropped were equivalent to the combined attributes Wang Teng picked up from more than 10 non-professionals. Master. This must be a master. This was the difference between a master and an amateur. Wang Teng glanced at his attributes panel. His gun skill had finally jumped from small achievement to the big achievement stage. Its strength had increased greatly. Brother, your gun skill is godlike. After the man finished shooting, someone immediately went forward and started chatting with him. You're speaking too highly of me. My shooting is just slightly more accurate. I don't deserve such praises. I'm not godlike, the man replied humbly. If you're not godlike, who is? A person at the side didn't believe him. You might not believe it, but I've seen someone with godlike gun skills before. That person is a real god. The man was full of exclamations as he recalled some past events. How impressive is that? Someone asked curiously. Have you seen bullets that can change direction in the air? The man with short hair asked mysteriously. Wang Teng was attracted by their conversation. At first, he just wanted to pick up attributes, but now, he couldn't stop himself from listening in on the chatter. Bullets that can change direction? So incredible. Do you think you're filming a fantasy movie? Wait, this isn't a fantasy movie but a martial arts drama. In the martial arts era, anything is possible. The man's question caused everyone to exchange glances with one another. This bunch of amateurs hadn't even seen many powerful gun players, much less a godlike player. The man with short hair was immersed in his memory. Then, he sighed and said, I've seen a person who can do it. That person is the real god of guns. His shooting skills are godlike, But unfortunately, Hes too arrogant. He fell into other people's trap and used the skill he was most proud of to kill the woman he loved dearly. His words caused everyone to turn flabbergasted. They saw the look of pity on the man's face. Although they might not have witnessed the scene personally, they felt sad too. TSK. Wang Ting clicked his tongue. He didn't know what kind of expression to give. What happened after that? Someone couldn't help but ask. The other people looked at the man in anticipation. They were all burning with curiosity, wanting to know the development of this story. In the end, he couldn't bear the stimulation and turned crazy. Hes in the western suburb mental hospital, the man with short hair said with sorrow. Ah. No one had expected this ending. There was a series of agitated sighs. The western suburb mental hospital. Wang Ting muttered the name to himself. There was a glimmer in his eyes. No one knew what plans he had up his sleeve. In the afternoon, after finishing his dinner, Wang Ting went straight to the western suburb mental hospital. The place wasn't hard to find. He drove to the western suburb under the guidance of his GPS and found his destination easily. Wang Ting parked his car and got down. There was an old building in front of him, mostly black and white. The walls were mottled, and metal railings surrounded the building. The paint on the railings was coming off, revealing the rust underneath. Weeds filled up the corners of the walls. It looked as though no one had cleaned this place for a long time. Wang Ting was slightly surprised by how dilapidated this mental hospital was. It was almost deserted. By right, in the current society, shouldn't a mental hospital show more emphasis on its environment? Why was this place like a haunted house in a movie? If someone lived here for a long time, they would get mentally ill, even if they weren't crazy at the start. Wang Ting walked into the mental hospital with his confused thoughts. He didn't know if it was his illusion, but he felt that it was cold and chilly inside. As a martial warrior, his sense of hearing was sharper than a normal person. He stood at the entrance and could faintly hear someone running in the empty corridor while wearing slippers. Tap, tap, tap. Sigh. Wang Ting couldn't help but shiver. Oh my God. He wondered if he had made the right decision to come to this mental hospital. Chapter 59. A mental disorder patient dropping spirit attribute. What kind of setting is this? Hello. I want to visit the God of Guns. In the lobby on the first floor of the Western Suburb Mental Hospital, Wang Ting told the nurse at the front desk his purpose for visiting. The nurse didn't respond to him. She was looking down and playing with her phone. Hello, Wang Ting remained patient and opened his mouth again. Hello, your head. The nurse suddenly raised her head. Her face was as round as a pie, and her eyes were narrow. She was glaring at Wang Ting. Glaring. Wang Ting. Suddenly, a thought flashed through his mind. I think you'll look amazing if you slim down a bit. Really? The nurse's eyes brightened. Of course. Everyone who knows me calls me Mr. Humble. You can believe my words, Wang Ting replied sincerely. I will definitely slim down and prove to everyone. That's right, prove to everyone. Prove to everyone that I look equally ugly after I slim down. Ha 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 ha. Tilda the nurse with a big face suddenly laughed maniacally. Wang Ting. Are all the staff in this mental hospital this abnormal? Wang Ting looked at the nurse, who was laughing like a lunatic. She laughed until she couldn't breathe properly. At the same time, the powder on her face kept dropping. Can I see the God of Gun? He waited until the nurse slowly came to a halt before asking her carefully. God of Guns? Which one are you referring to? We have 9 people who claim that they are the God of Gun here, the nurse said. Wang Ting instantly felt his head hurting. Once again, he suspected whether he had made the right decision to come to this mental hospital or not. The one that accidentally killed the woman he loved. Wang Ting contemplated his words before he spoke. Oh Tilda, you're talking about that poor, unlucky fellow. There was no expression on the nurse's face, but she sounded enlightened. Yes, it's him. That's the one. Wang Ting nodded. I'm sorry, we forbid anyone from visiting anyone in this hospital. The nurse with the fat face lowered her head and started playing with her phone again. Wang Ting felt the veins on his forehead bulging up. Forbid anyone from visiting? Why didn't you tell me earlier? Oh, I noticed that you had a strong desire to talk, so I forced myself to talk to you for a while. Tilda, the nurse replied without raising her head. I at %yuan percent and asterisk, f asterisk asterisk k, even if I die, I won't have any desire to talk to you. Wang Ting almost choked to death from his complaints. I have never thought that I, Wang Ting, will fall in the hands of this round-faced lady. He snorted angrily and flicked his sleeve as he left. Wang Teng went back to the marksmanship club and turned his unutterable grief and indignation into motivation. He picked up attributes. Gun skill *1, gun skill *2, gun skill *5. His gun skill, which was at the big achievement stage, was racing towards the perfected stage. Time flew by when you were busy. At night, Wang Teng went home to have dinner. Then, he drove to the house he rented in the university town to pay a visit to his little egg. Well, Tilda, it hadn't hatched. He didn't go back to the marksmanship club. Instead, he went to Jisin Marshall House. He stayed there all the way until 11 p.m. Next, Wang Teng went back to the western suburb mental hospital. The western suburb had always been deserted, with few people there. At this time, no trace of humans could be seen. The surroundings were eerily quiet, like a ghost town. Wang Ting felt that this was even more frightening than in the day. In the dark, the mental hospital was like a giant beast lying prone on the ground, waiting for ignorant people to come close. Then, it would devour the person in one bite. Should I go back home? Is it too late to turn around now? He was a little scared, but for the sake of his attributes, Wang Ting took a deep breath and sneaked into the mental hospital. He was resolute and told himself that there was no turning back. There were guards at the entrance, so Wang Ting could only climb the walls. The nurse at the front desk had changed. It wasn't the lady with a round face anymore. Instead, it was a male nurse now. He was leaning against his chair and watching a drama on the television. From the noise, it seemed to be some anti-Japanese drama. Wang Ting made a sound outside the door. The male nurse instantly lifted his head. Who is it? There was no reply for a long time. The nurse stood up and walked towards the door. Wang Ting could hear his footsteps. The instant he stepped out of the door, he knocked the nurse unconscious with the side of his palm. Then, he dragged the person into a corner and pondered for a moment. He took off the nurse's coat and wore it. At the end, he put on a mask. Wang Teng couldn't help but give himself a thumbs up for his wits when he saw his appearance. He lowered his head to evade the cameras and sat down behind the front desk. Wang Teng opened the computer to check the internal records of the mental hospital. He memorized the room number of a few mental patients that seemed like his target. After taking the bunch of keys from the wall, he walked towards the second floor. The corridor was extremely quiet. Wang Teng tried his best to walk softly, but he would still make some slight noises. When the noise entered his ears, he felt a little chilly. The first target, room 203. Wang Ting followed the room numbers and arrived at the entrance of room 203. He glanced through the window. There was a figure lying on the bed, sleeping. He found the keys corresponding to the room and opened the door. A person was lying on the bed and seemed to be in a deep sleep. Beside him, a few attribute bubbles were floating in the air. I didn't expect there to be attribute bubbles that haven't disappeared. Wang Ting's eyes lit up. This was a pleasant and unexpected surprise. These attribute bubbles were probably dropped recently, so they hadn't vanished yet. He came just in time. He picked them up. Spirit *1, Spirit *0. 5. He discovered that they were spirit bubbles, and their points were quite high. Wang Teng was elated. These are all spirit attributes. Could it be that mental patients will drop the spirit attribute? Wang Teng felt a little puzzled. If his guess was correct, what kind of weird setting was this? He shook his head and walked over, shaking the person on the bed. Hey, get up. It's time for medicine. The person muttered in a daze, I've already taken them. Why am I eating again? Oh, you ate one less medicine just now. When I realized my mistake, I quickly came to give it to you. Wang Teng spouted nonsense. The person took over the 6 flavor Dihuang pills from Wang Teng and put them in his mouth. He swallowed them in a single gulp. Wang Ting had especially bought these 6-flavor Dihuang pills for these poor mental patients to nourish their kidneys. Wang Ting watched him as he swallowed the pills. Then, he asked casually, "I heard that your shooting is very accurate." The other party got excited the moment he heard this. "You actually know about my ability. Let me tell you, my aim is really accurate. I can shoot an airplane down from the sky." The moment he talked about shooting airplanes, a morbid excitement could be seen on his face. "Really? Can you show me?" asked Wang Ting. "Of course, watch carefully." As he spoke, he started to take off his pants. He was actually taking off his pants. Wang Ting. Just as something disturbing to the eyes was about to happen, Wang Ting hurriedly raised his hand and chopped the person unconscious. Mental patients were indeed frightening. However, at that moment just now, another attribute bubble had dropped from the patient. Spirit *0. 5 Maybe he should have let the mental patient continue his demonstration a little longer. Chapter 60. God Says. Wang Ting hurriedly shook off the image in his mind. That image was so beautiful that he didn't dare to think about it. He would rather forsake the spirit attribute than see that kind of image. He would grow a sty in his eye. He closed the door and continued to look for the next godlike marksmanship patient. Whether the person earlier is still lying on the ground or not has nothing to do with me. 207, 208. The next room was 209. However, when he went past room 208, the lights inside were on. Wang Ting suddenly saw a familiar person, the nurse with a big face. Why was she in the ward? Wang Ting was puzzled. Could it be that she was actually a patient who sneaked out in the day and pretended to be a nurse at the front desk? He had chatted with a mental patient for such a long time. Wang Ting suddenly felt extremely uncomfortable. The entire mental hospital seemed to be engulfed in an evil aura. It was slowly and silently enshrouding him. How unlucky of me, he cursed silently. Wang Ting didn't have any desire to investigate this matter further, so he came to room 209 and opened the door. He walked in directly. Pew, pew, pew. A man was firing in the air in the room. "Who are you? Did my platoon leader ask you to reinforce me?" he asked Wang Ting excitedly the moment he saw him. Wang Ting looked at the ground filled with attribute bubbles and picked them up silently. Spirit *1 Spirit *0. 8 Spirit *1. 5 They were all spirit attributes, without a single gun skill attribute anywhere in sight. It looked like this was a fake god of guns. However, his guess seemed to be right. Mental patients indeed dropped spirit attributes. The person who thought of this setting must be a genius. Wang Ting took a glance at the ceiling. He was speechless. "Hey, why aren't you replying to me? Could it be that you're a spy?" The man's face was filled with suspicion when he noticed Wang Ting's silence. He pretended to raise a gun and aimed it at Wang Ting. It looked as if he would fire and kill Wang Ting if he answered wrongly. That was right, kill him. This drama king. Looking at the man's expression and the number of spirit attribute bubbles he had dropped, this person must be incurably sick. There was nothing to reply to a patient who was already hopeless. Wang Ting ended the conversation with a karate chop. "Sigh, why is it so hard to find a person?" Wang Ting closed the door and sighed. "Let's continue." He went to the 3rd floor next. The 1st to the 3rd floor were filled with all kinds of weird patients. Many of them weren't asleep. Most of the lights in the rooms were lit up. There were different dramas in each room. Wang Ting was caught between laughter and tears, but he also felt a chill in the depths of his heart. So many attribute bubbles. Wang Ting was at a loss of what to do when he saw so many attribute bubbles. Once again, he opened a door casually. He saw a patient squatting on the ground. There were many attribute bubbles scattered around him. "Time to eat medicine. Time to eat medicine," Wang Ting shouted. "Don't disturb me." A faint voice resounded in the room. The person continued squatting in the corner without moving. Wang Ting walked over. He picked up the attributes. Spirit *0. 5 Spirit *1 Spirit *1. 2 Why are you squatting here? Wang Teng was extremely curious. He couldn't help but ask the man. Because I'm a pile of cow dung, the faint voice sounded again. Oh, why are you a pile of cow dung? Why can't you be pig dung or sheep dung? Wang Teng continued. Because fresh flowers would only stick on a pile of cow dung, a saying which means a beauty marrying an ugly husband. That makes sense. Wang Teng picked up the attributes and turned around to leave. He had no common topic with this pile of cow dung. Goodbye, I hope to never see you again. Then, he continued looking at the rooms one by one. He finally understood what people meant when they said that there were all sorts of mental patients. The man in front of him was one such example. Do you know who I am? Who are you? I'm the creator of the world. God says there must be light, so the world has light. God says there must be air in water. Did God tell you that you should eat your medicine? This was a man who failed at writing online novels. He wanted to become a god. To improve the reading experience of his readers, he decided to immerse himself in the role to write the book. This was a bad move. Then, there was no more story after that. Now, he could be his god in this mental hospital. He wasn't a popular writer earning millions every year. Marrying wealthy young ladies had nothing to do with him anymore. Next. A patient with fetishism. He was hugging a pillow with an anime beauty on it. He kept rubbing against the pillow while licking it. He was even chatting crazily with the beautiful anime character. Japan owes you an anime beauty. Amen, I hope that the sun will protect you. Next. My horizons have truly been broadened. Wang Teng lamented to himself. Finally, he arrived outside the door of the last candidate. If this wasn't the real god of guns, he was definitely fooled by the short hair man in the morning. Although I discovered a place to collect spirit attributes because of this, I was still fooled. I won't bear with it. He opened the door. There was a man sitting at the side of the bed in the room. He had long black hair, a good imitation of the instant noodle hairstyle. His beard was untrimmed, and his gaze was melancholy. His expression seemed heavy-hearted. Handsome. This was an extremely handsome and charismatic man. As compared to the other mental patients, this man appeared too normal, so normal that he didn't seem to belong here. However, Wang Teng raised his vigilance to an all-time high. The more normal a mental patient seemed, the more dangerous he was, right? Hello, Wang Teng asked cautiously. Hello. The man raised his head. His voice was hoarse, but for some reason, one could hear the warmth and gentleness in his tone. He sized up Wang Teng. You are not a staff here. I came to, I know. However, don't tell me. I might go crazy. I can't control myself. He seemed to know what Wang Teng wanted to say. Before Wang Teng could finish speaking, he stopped him. Don't tell you what? Brother, can you give some hints? If not, how am I supposed to guess? Wang Teng was dumbstruck. In the end, he didn't say anything. But, he already knew that this was the man he was looking for. The thing that couldn't be mentioned. If it wasn't guns, it should be the woman he loved. This is a little hard to settle. If I can't even say it, what else can I do? This man is no different from a normal person if his illness doesn't flare up. I can't trick him. Wang Teng could sense that this man wasn't an ordinary person. At least when he was facing him, he felt a sense of danger. If he treated this man like how he had treated the other patients, he would probably die a terrible death. It looks like you made a futile trip today. The man smiled and asked, do you have a cigarette? Wang Teng was slightly stunned. This change of topic was so sudden that he almost sprained his back. He took out his cigarette pack and passed it to the other party. He then let out a long breath. Sigh, it's been a little disappointing but not a futile trip. The man lit up a cigarette and passed the packet back to Wang Teng. Wang Teng was feeling frustrated, so he lit one up too. The two of them started smoking in the ward. Not bad. You've become a martial warrior at such a young age, the man suddenly said. Wang Teng was stunned. How can you tell? Feeling, as well as force. Are you a martial warrior too? The man smiled and didn't say anything. He remained quiet until he finished smoking his cigarette. It's a pity that there isn't any alcohol. I haven't drunk alcohol in a long time, said the man finally. If you want, I can bring some for you in the future. Wang Ting got up and prepared to leave. Wait. Wang Ting turned around and saw the man throwing something at him. He caught it in a hurry. What is this? Chapter 61, Gun Kung Fu. USB. Wang Ting looked at the item in his hand in surprise. At the same time, he had doubts in his heart. This is a gift for you. What you want is inside, the man with curly hair said. You're embarrassing me, to be honest. This is the first time we met, yet you are giving me a gift. Although his mouth refused, Wang Ting's hand still stuffed the USB into his pants pocket without any hesitation. You can take it as payment for the cigarette. Hartilda, the man with curly hair, yawned and lay down. He waved his hand at Wang Ting. You can leave. I want to sleep. Remember to turn off the light for me. Wang Ting threw a last glance at the other party. Then, he put on his mask and turned off the lights. He walked out and left. Once Wang Ting stepped out, the man with curly hair suddenly jumped up from the bed and pasted his face on the door's glass. He looked for a long time. Do you think he has left? He muttered to himself. He should have left. He confirmed that Wang Ting was already gone. Suddenly, he laughed like crazy. He laughed until he bent forward and backward. He then fell to the ground and started rolling around in laughter. Tears and mucus dripped down his face. This is so interesting. This is so interesting. That fellow actually believed me. Ha 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 ha. I'm dying from laughter. Wang Ting lowered his head and headed down the stairs. Suddenly, a sound was heard behind him. Hey, you, wait for a moment. Wang Ting's heart dropped. Was there staff on duty at this time? When he came up, he didn't see anyone. All kinds of ways to tackle the situation appeared in his mind. If he got caught, he could only. Footsteps sounded behind him. That person was getting closer. Wang Ting turned around and saw a 30-year-old man walking towards him. He was wearing a long white coat. Aren't you stationed downstairs? Why did you come up? He looked at Wang Ting sternly. Oh, I heard a commotion upstairs and thought that something happened. Hence, I came up to take a look. Wang Ting spouted nonsense without batting an eye. The man's expression softened a little when he heard this explanation. But, immediately after that, he asked with curiosity, why are you wearing a mask in the middle of the night? I have bad breath. If I don't wear a mask, it will affect other people. Before Wang Ting could finish speaking, a loud siren suddenly rang throughout the entire mental hospital. A patient ran out. A shout came from downstairs. The man's expression changed. He pushed Wang Ting away and dashed down. As he ran, he took off the white gown he was wearing and laughed loudly. Come and catch me. Come and catch me, Wang Ting. This mental hospital is too scary. I should hurry up and go home. Using the commotion as his cover-up, Wang Ting climbed the wall and left the mental hospital. He drove his car home. It was deep into the night when he reached home. Wang Ting took a bath and went back to his bedroom. He took out the USB and plugged it into his computer. When he opened it, he found a single video in the folder. Do they use video tutorials to learn martial arts secret scriptures in this era now? Wang Ting was slightly shocked. He clicked on the video. Instantly, an ambiguous sound came from his speakers. It was enough to make his ears turn red. It was quite loud too. F***K. Wang Ting instantly became frantic. He grabbed his mouse and clicked on the screen. Normally, he was able to stop a video with one click, but now, he couldn't hit the pause button no matter how hard he tried. In his haste, he forcefully shut down his computer. The room finally turned quiet. Wang Ting didn't even dare to breathe loudly. His parents' room was not far away. He was afraid that they would have heard the noise just now. Breathe, that's good, that's good. I don't think I woke them up. Wang Ting heaved a huge sigh of relief. I was fooled. Now, he finally had the time to think about this matter properly. He thought of the man with curly hair. He seemed to have been fooled by the man's appearance. I shouldn't have trusted him. I must have been blinded by greed. How can I trust a mental patient? Wang Ting gave a bitter smile. But the video wasn't that bad. When the scene flashed past his eyes just now, he realized that the female lead was quite pretty. Her figure was good and her skin was fair. TSK, TSK, TSK. Why don't I take a look again? Just one look. Wang Ting comforted himself and looked for his earphones. Then, he turned on his computer again and clicked on the video. Here. Only the computer screen was lit up in the dark room. The entire room was very quiet, and only sinister peals of laughter occasionally sounded. It was a little eerie. Not bad at all. The storyline is attractive, and the female lead is pretty. However, her voice is really loud. She's just having a massage. Why does she need to scream so loudly? It gave me a huge fright. Wang Ting finished the video with a critical look. However, just as he was about to turn off his computer and go to sleep, he realized that the progress bar was only at the halfway mark. Wang Ting shifted the mouse away and allowed the video to continue playing. After a few seconds, the scene shifted. Wang Ting's expression underwent a huge change. In an instant, his sleepiness disappeared, and he stared at the computer screen without blinking his eyes. Half an hour later, the video had finished playing. Wang Ting closed his eyes and pondered for some time. When he reopened his eyes, he gave a dry smile. How tricky. I almost missed the information at the back. I'm so lucky. He felt a little fortunate. Speaking of this, he still had to thank the female lead. The whole reason he watched the video was that the female lead was pretty. If not, he would have thrown the USB away, and the information at the back wouldn't have the chance to be seen by him. He opened his attributes panel. Enlightenment, 93 Spirit, 55 Talent, Beginner Stage Fire Talent, 11,300, Beginner Stage Ice Talent, 13,300, Beginner Stage Earth Talent, 12,300, Spiritual Sight, Beginner Stage 1, 4/10, Demon Lotus Poison Body, 15,10,000, Force, 64,100 Fire, 1-star Soldier Level Martial Warrior, 8,100 Ice, 1-star Soldier Level Martial Warrior, 7,100 Earth, 1-star Soldier Level Martial Warrior, 3,100 Poison, 1-star Soldier Level Martial Warrior, Scripture, Red Flame Scripture, Foundation 2,100, Deep. Ice Scripture, Foundation 12,100, Earth Lure Skill Earth Element Shield, Foundation 15,100, Battle Techniques, Basic Battle Techniques, Presence Enlightenment for Fist, Sword, Blade, Footwork, Basic Stick Skill, Perfected, Gun Kung Fu, Foundation 1/10, Fire Kirin Sword Skill, Foundation 43,100, Phantom Ice Fist, Foundation 13,100, Knowledge, Basic Subjects, Full Marks, 5 years of Martial Arts Exam, 3 years of Mock Papers, 80 points, Overall Battle Power, 221 Blank Attribute, 0 in. The Battle Techniques column, his gun skill had changed to Gun Kung Fu. However, he was still at the Foundation stage. Furthermore, the attribute points needed to level up were now displayed behind the skill. Earlier, gun skill didn't have the attribute points displayed behind it, just like the other basic battle techniques. The system had been looking down on that skill. Thus, based on how the system worked, Gun Kung Fu was undoubtedly more advanced than gun skill. Wang Ting had never heard of Gun Kung Fu in the past, but there was information about it in the second half of the video. The theory of Gun Kung Fu came about due to the integration of martial arts and technology. Ever since rune guns were born, the martial warriors on Earth went through many rounds of tests and innovation before creating this Gun Kung Fu. It was powerful enough to make people tremble in fear. Tremble in fear. This phrase wasn't an exaggeration. It had actually happened before. In theory, Gun Kung Fu was an amazing ability that incorporated body strength, gun skill, and sword skill into one whole. Many martial warriors specialized in rune guns. At the same time, they also practiced Gun Kung Fu. The combination of these two skills was extremely formidable. It could be said to be terrifying. Chapter 62, Untitled. Based on the introduction given by the video, the theory behind Gun Kung Fu was a statistical model built and centered around a single person. That was right. Without any mistake, It was a statistical study. If one wanted to learn gun kung fu, they needed to master their statistics first. All the poor students had to move aside voluntarily. Moving on with the main topic. The trajectory of the bullets and the position of the enemy were both included in the statistical model. Thus, if the gun kung fu was used flexibly, it would be possible to add all the blind spots around the user into the calculation. The user could attack and defend at the same time. It sounded a little complicated. Simply put, martial arts plus gun skills and statistical study to calculate the best firing path. Yep, that was right. Wang Teng placed his hand on his chin and went into deep thought. There was nothing wrong with it. He just felt that Newton might want to rise from his grave. Help. Someone, please press his grave down tightly. Don't let him get out. This is quite a fantastic skill. However, how am I supposed to increase the attribute for my gun kung fu? Wang Teng was confused. He contemplated for a moment and felt that he could only find some opportunities in the future to try it out. Since he had received the gun kung fu, naturally, he should use it. Gun kung fu, as the name implied, could only be executed with a gun. Wang Teng did have a rune gun, but he had emptied it on the martial warrior on Mount Baoan in the past. I should go and buy some bullets. But, from where? Master Lu. Wang Teng suddenly remembered this guy. He took out his phone and wanted to contact the other party right away. However, he realized that it was already very late at night, so he gave up. It was indeed very late. Wang Teng yawned uncontrollably. He shook his head, turned off the lights, and went to sleep. Before shutting his eyes, he glanced at his attributes panel. His spirit had reached 55 points. It was an exponential increase. The Western Suburb Mental Hospital was a good place. If the patients inside were any friendlier, he wanted to stay there permanently. The next day. It was Monday, so Wang Teng got up very early. He had hit the bed too late yesterday. When he sat at the table for breakfast, he had dark eye circles around his eyes and kept yawning. Li Xiaomei and Wang Shengguo exchanged glances with one another and communicated using their eyes. You do it. Why don't you say it? Are you going to say it or not? If you don't, I'll clean the toilet bowl with your toothbrush. Fine, I'll say it. The eye contact ended with Wang Shengguo as the loser. He put down the spoon in his hand and coughed. Son. Yes. Wang Teng raised his head and looked at him curiously. Son, come, eat these 2 eggs. They are good for your body. Li Xiaomei passed 2 eggs to him with a caring look. Wang Teng didn't know how he took the eggs over. As he stared at the 2 eggs in his hand, understanding suddenly dawned on him. He was unable to explain this matter anymore. That stupid man with curly hair. You ruined my reputation in a single night. When I see you again, I'll bring him some alcohol. I will pee in the alcohol and pour some laxatives inside. Yes, this is what I will do. Wang Teng left the house as though he was running away from something. He was unable to withstand the gazes of his parents anymore. Wherever he went, he could feel the 2 pairs of eyes behind his back looking at him with concern. Donghai No. 1 High School. The tense atmosphere in school had reached a peak. In only 1 week, the university entrance exam would be here. All the students were frantically revising and doing papers. Because of the Reformation this year, most of the students taking part in the martial arts exam had burned their boats and were fighting with their backs to the river. Good morning, class monitor. Wang Teng sat down on his seat and greeted Lin Chuhan. The other party had arrived very early, just like always. Good morning. Lin Chuhan raised her head and replied softly. I won't disturb you. Study well. Ever since Wang Teng learned of Lin Chuhan's family background, he had started to respect her even more. A little girl like her had endured so much suffering, but she was still able to do the things normal people weren't able to. She deserved to be respected. Although Lin Chuhan was surprised, she didn't say anything. She turned her head back and continued revising. Time was really tight. Whenever she was free, she would spare no effort in revising the 5 years of martial arts exam, 3 years of mock papers. At the same time, she needed to practice too. If not, she wouldn't be able to pass the actual combat assessment. The 5 years of martial arts exam, 3 years of mock papers was a fixed subject that would be included in the martial arts exam. However, the actual combat assessment was still the most important segment. Since they were practicing martial arts, their skill was naturally the most important. Honestly, Lin Chuhan's battle prowess wasn't strong. It was even a little weak. As compared to other intermediate-stage martial disciples, she was probably below average. When he pushed Lin Chuhan against the wall in the past, Wang Teng was an advanced-stage martial disciple. At that time, he had noticed that her strength was weak, but he didn't place much emphasis on it. He thought that this was the standard of a normal person. Now, thinking back, one of the reasons he felt this way was because he was too strong. In comparison, Lin Chuhan seemed fragile. The other reason was that he had just started practicing martial arts, so he didn't know the difference between a normal person and a martial disciple. Hence, he only learned that Lin Chuhan was an intermediate-stage martial disciple much later. I wonder if she can pass the martial arts exam successfully. Wang Teng glanced at Lin Chuhan worriedly. If she didn't, it would be a huge blow to her. After all, she wasn't taking part in the martial arts exam for herself. It was for her father and younger sister. However, Wang Teng knew that he should keep quiet at a time like this. Rather than hurting her confidence, shouldn't he give her support? There just might be a miracle, right? Wang Teng threw this matter to the side and took out his phone. He sent a message to Master Lu. Wang Teng, are you there? Master Lu, yes, dear. I'm here. 3. Red heart tilde instant reply. Wang Teng, do you sell bullets in your shop? Master Lu, yes, we do. What kind of caliber, material, and stats do you need for your bullet? Wang Teng was stunned for 2 seconds. Why were there so many different options when buying bullets? Thus, he went online and searched for a picture of a gun that looked similar to his. He sent it over. Wang Teng, I need bullets for this gun. Master Lu, dear, you can use 6.5mm bullets for this gun. What kind of material and attributes do you need? Wang Teng, what kind of material and attributes are there? The other party immediately sent 2 pictures over. They were a table for the materials and the attributes of the gun, respectively. There were all kinds of materials. Wang Teng had never even heard of many of them, such as Ola alloy, sapphire alloy, and many others. The ppm, density, and other attributes were listed down beside the names of the materials. They looked really amazing. As for the price, some cost a few thousand while others were tagged at tens of thousands. There were some that cost in 6 figures. The other attribute list included the familiar attributes: metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. The effects of runes were included such that the attacking power of the bullets was stronger and more powerful. But, most importantly, it was very expensive. It was extremely expensive. This evil merchant. Chapter 63. The University Entrance Exam is Coming. Evil Merchant. Wang Ting cursed in his heart, but he still bought some rune bullets from the shop. But he didn't buy alloy bullets from overseas brands. Instead, he got the bullets from Zhong Alloy, which was created by their own country. We should support local product. Zhong Alloy was ranked 7th in Master Lu's shop. It wasn't cheap either. Wang Ting chose ice and fire element rune bullets. They were more powerful than regular alloy bullets. In total, he had spent 300,000 on these 2 kinds of bullets. Along with his recent expenses, his fortune was already starting to thin out. He paid the price and initiated the order. Then, he waited for the round-faced fat chicken to deliver his goods to his house. Wang Teng put down his phone and listened to a few lessons. He also picked up 5 years of martial arts exam, 3 years of mock papers attributes. Time flew. At night, Wang Ting went back home for dinner. The family sat down and chatted occasionally. Unknowingly, they started to talk about the university entrance exam. The Ministry of Education had a reform this year and is allowing intermediate-stage martial disciples to take part in the martial arts exam. What a pity. You started practicing a little too late. Wang Shenghua found it unfortunate. Wang Ting had only practiced for less than a month. Wang Shanghua never thought his son would become an intermediate stage martial disciple in this short period. Hence, he didn't have any hope for the university entrance exam this year. Wang Teng opened his mouth, but he heard his father saying, "However, you don't have to worry. I can help ask your school to allow you to repeat your year. We will still have a chance next year." "That's right. Son, your father and I are mentally prepared. You can take the exam again next year. Don't be stressed," Li Xiumei agreed with her husband and said. Wang Teng opened his mouth again to speak. In the end, though, he just sighed secretly. "Forget it, I will give them a surprise later." He didn't tell his parents about his ability. After all, it was really hard to explain. It was better to show them results and make them happy. After he finished eating, Wang Ting went out to Jisin Martial House. When he came back at night, the round-faced fat chicken had arrived punctually. Wang Teng received the rune alloy bullets and placed them in his weapon carrier casket along with his rune gun. All that was left was to increase the points of his gun kung fu. During the past few days, Wang Ting had asked someone to investigate Zhao Ganghu's small team. The result wasn't very encouraging. The gang was made up of all sorts of people. Most of them had no potential and didn't have a stable life. They bullied the weak and respected the strong. They would collect protection fees from small companies. It wasn't something worthy of mentioning. As for Zhao Ganghu, he was already more than 30 years old. He was an advanced stage martial disciple, but his talent was limited. Wang Ting was already a martial warrior. His leveling up speed in the future wouldn't be slow. He would only get stronger and stronger. Zhao Ganghu would be thrown far behind and wouldn't be able to catch up with him at all. Thus, in the end, Wang Teng gave up the thought of accepting Zhao Ganghu and his gang. Zhao Ganghu was stunned for a long time when he received his rejection. He didn't expect Wang Ting to reject the request of an advanced stage martial disciple to be under him. Was it disdain? "He's looking down on me so much." He clenched his fists with an ugly expression. At the side, Zhao Gangbao was secretly elated. That evil person didn't accept them. As long as he stayed far away from Wang Ting in the future, there was nothing to be afraid of. He was still the second in command. Besides his elder brother, all the other subordinates had to listen to him. "Brother, if I have to say, that fellow is blind. He's not able to see your ability. Why do we have to follow him?" Zhao Gangbao used the opportunity to fan the flames. "Don't start acting smart." Zhao Ganghu glared at him. Then, he looked at a subordinate behind him and asked, "How much money do we have left?" "Less than 8 million, the subordinate replied. "Go and borrow some more. Make it 10 million. I will give it to him personally," Zhao Ganghu said. "What? 10 million? Brother, are you crazy? He's not going to bother about us anymore. Why are we still giving him 10 million? Zhao Gangbao jumped up and looked at Zhao Ganghu in disbelief. He wanted to see if his brother had turned crazy from fright. "You don't have to give anything. I'm not the one who caused trouble. If you meet him again in the future, you can do whatever you want," Zhao Ganghu sneered and mocked his brother. The moment he thought of Wang Ting, Zhao Gangbao lost his courage. He hesitated and said, "Why don't we give him 6 million? That's 1 million more than the previous time. He should be satisfied. That way, we won't have to borrow money from others. Do whatever you want. You can solve your own problems. I don't want to care about it anymore." Zhao Ganghu sighed in his heart. He was filled with disappointment. He shook his head and left the room directly, ignoring his brother. He went to train. He trained even harder than before, as if his life depended on it. "I will make you regret your decision today." Zhao Ganghu promised himself that one day, he must let Wang Ting know that he wasn't a good-for-nothing. "Young Master Wang, there are 10 million here. I had to ask many people for help before I managed to borrow all this money. I hope that you can show some mercy and forgive me for what I've done." At Donghai No. 1 high school entrance, Zhao Gangbao held a bank card in his hand and passed it to Wang Ting respectfully while bending his back and lowering his head. The stubbornness and reluctance he used to have couldn't be seen now. "It feels good. Interesting. Wang Teng didn't expect Zhao Gangbao to know how to behave properly in a situation like this. However, he also knew that this was probably his older brother, Zhao Ganghu's, idea. Based on Zhao Gangbao's personality, he might not be so decisive. At first, Wang Teng didn't plan to take this money. After all, he had already rejected them. There was no point in taking their money. But now that the other party had come to deliver it personally, there was no point in refusing them. Also, his expenses had been really high recently. He didn't have much savings left. Since they came to deliver the money, it would be a waste if he didn't take it. This matter will end here. Don't let me see you causing trouble again, Wang Teng said indifferently as he took the bank card and placed it in his pocket. I won't dare do it again. I won't dare, Zhao Gangbao gave a forced smile and said. After Wang Teng left, he wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and heaved a long sigh of relief. Martial warriors are really scary. I wonder if it's a psychological effect, but his presence is enough to suffocate me. Forget it. I will take it as imbibing peace and safety. Zhao Gangbao heaved a breath again as he comforted himself. After solving the Zhao brothers' matter, Wang Teng's life was very peaceful for the next few days. He had almost collected all the attributes for 5 years of martial arts exam, 3 years of mock papers. Thus, he didn't want to go to school and waste his time. He had a lot on his plate every day. Besides cultivating force, he needed to go to Jisin Martial House to pick up attributes. In the middle of the night, he would visit the mental hospital since spirit attributes were hard to come by. It took him so much effort to find a place that could give him spirit attributes. He wouldn't want to miss it. Besides all these, he would take some time to go to Lin Chuhan's house to visit the poison baby, Lin Chuxia. Along the way, he would collect the demon lotus poison body and poison force attributes she had dropped. Not only was he able to alleviate Lin Chuxia's suffering, but he was also able to increase his own demon lotus poison body and poison force points. It was a win-win situation. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to visit Lin Chuhan's house too often. He was afraid that Mother Lin would misunderstand his intentions. What a pity. With so many things to do, Wang Teng's life was incredibly fulfilling. Attributes panel, enlightenment, 97 spirit, 91 talent, beginner stage fire talent, 11,300, beginner stage ice talent, 13,300, beginner stage earth talent, 12,300, spiritual sight, beginner stage 1, 4/10, demon lotus poison body, 31 10,000, force, 68 100 fire, 1-star soldier level martial warrior, 16 100 ice, 1-star soldier level martial warrior, 15 100 earth, 1-star soldier level martial warrior, 46 100 poison, 1-star soldier level martial warrior. Scripture, red flame scripture. Foundation 32 100, defy scripture, foundation 23 100, earth lure skill earth element shield, foundation 26 100, battle techniques, basic battle techniques, presence enlightenment for fist, sword, blade, footwork, stick, gun kung fu, foundation 1, 8/10, fire kirin sword skill, foundation 56 100, phantom ice fist, foundation 28 100, knowledge, basic subjects, full marks, 5 years of martial arts exam, 3 years of mock papers, full marks, overall battle power, 231 blank attribute, 0. Wang Teng studied his attributes panel. Many of his attributes had increased. Especially the spirit attribute, it flew to 91 points. Wang Teng felt as if there was a strange force breeding in his brain. Could it be that once the spirit attribute reached a certain point, there would be a qualitative change? Wang Teng guessed in his heart. He suddenly had a premonition. However, he could only wait for the qualitative change to arrive to know what would happen at that time. He continued looking down. Under Wang Teng's hard work, all his force and the proficiency of his scriptures and battle techniques had risen. His ability had increased. One thing to note was that his basic stick skill had reached the presence enlightenment stage. Thus, there was no way to increase any of his basic battle techniques anymore. He didn't need to waste time collecting the attributes now. Wang Teng also went to the Owl Marksmanship Club and tried picking up gun skill attributes to see if it helped his gun kung fu attribute. In the end, gun kung fu, Foundation 1, 8/10. It was not difficult to tell how much effect gun skill attributes had on gun kung fu. After all, it was a part of gun kung fu. However, the effect was minimal. Wang Ting had picked up 2 digits worth of gun skill points, but his gun kung fu only increased by 0.8. If he wanted to increase his gun kung fu points, it would be a long and tedious journey. Friday, after school ended. Their head teacher, Fan Wei Ming, distributed the examination identity card. First, he distributed the normal university entrance exam identity cards. Then, he gave out the martial arts exam ones. The other students watched their classmates participating in the martial arts exam go forward to get their identity cards. They had jealous expressions on their faces. Our class monitor is participating in the martial arts exam too. When it was Lin Chuhan's turn, everyone was shocked. Lin Chuhan was a well-known top student. Her results beat all the other students by a huge gap. She was the top student in Donghai No. 1 High School. But, she was actually going to enter the martial arts exam? Everyone found this hard to believe and even a bit unacceptable. The last person to receive his identity card was Wang Teng, who came late. Wang Teng is participating in the martial arts exam. The students who were packing their bags and preparing to go home got a shock again. Has he learned martial arts before? I've never heard of it. Has he been hiding his ability? Maybe. He comes from a wealthy family, so he will have an easier time practicing martial arts compared to a normal person, someone said enviously. Haha, look at how jealous you are, someone said with contempt. After Fan Wei Ming finished distributing all the examination identity cards, he said to everyone, take a good rest tomorrow. Have a routine lifestyle. Don't sleep too early or too late. Revise appropriately and adjust your mentality. Arrive at your exam locations earlier on the 5th of July. The exam will start at 8 a.m. sharp. Take things easy, and don't be late. Remember to bring all your items, especially your examination identity card. Every year, someone forgets to bring theirs. Don't say that I didn't remind you. If this happens to you, you won't even be able to cry, he kept reminding his students earnestly and patiently. The students laughed and said that he was naggy. However, they didn't reveal any hint of impatience. Fan Wei Ming was a responsible and accountable head teacher. Thus, the students treated him with respect. Take your exams properly, and don't waste these 3 years of your life, Fan Wei Ming said emotionally as he looked at the young and vibrant faces below. Chapter 64, Shock. 3 years of hard work for a single chance. Fan Wei Ming's words had touched the hearts of many students. Their resolve was even more cemented as they went home with a firm mentality. The university entrance exam was on the 5th of July. After the students left, the entire school was cordoned off. There were many things different about this world as compared to the previous world. For instance, in the previous world, there would be 3 days of holiday before the university entrance exam. In this world, there was only one off day. But, there was a huge amount of human resources sent out to set up the exam venues. One day was good enough. Donghai No. 1 High School was a top school, so naturally, it was one of the exam venues. The other schools, as well as some famous martial arts academies, were all closed today to prepare for the test. That was right. The martial arts academies were examination venues too. But, they were just used for the martial arts exam. All sorts of devices in the martial arts academies would be used to inspect the physique of the students taking part in the martial arts exam. Wang Teng took his examination identity card and bade farewell to Lin Chuhan. Then, they went back to their homes. The next day, Saturday, Wang Teng didn't go anywhere. He rested at home. He had increased all the attributes he needed to increase. One day wouldn't make a difference. To him, the university entrance exam was just a process. His success was virtually granted, so there was nothing to worry about. Wang Shangguo and Li Xiaomei weren't like the other parents who were like ants on a hot pan, anxious and worried. Other parents wished that they could take the university entrance exam for their child, but the two of them were extremely calm. They continued doing what they were supposed to do. At night, Wang Shengwa drank some tea and watched the news while Li Xiumei practiced yoga at the side. They were really carefree. Wang Ting came down to get a cup of water. When he saw his parents, he immediately felt speechless. Honestly, can you show some respect to the university entrance exam? What will people think of the university entrance exam if they see you being so carefree? Wang Ting complained in his heart. However, he also knew that they could be so calm because they didn't have any hope. After the results came out, he wondered what their expressions would be like. It must be quite interesting. Son, have you prepared all the things you need for your exam tomorrow? Even if you're just going there for a show, you need to be serious. Don't get a 0. I'll be too embarrassed to tell other people about it if they asked me your results. Li Xiumei stopped for a moment and said. Wang Shengwa took a sip of his tea and closed his eyes to savor it. He then said calmly, your mom is right. If you score a 0, I'd rather you don't go for the exam at all. I can't afford to embarrass myself like this. Wang Ting was speechless. Why can't you have more confidence in me? We want to have more confidence in you too, but you never gave us an opportunity, son. Wang Shengwa replied. Wait and see how many zeros I score for you. Wang Ting sniggered. Little brat. Wang Shengwa rolled his eyes at him. At that moment, his phone rang and interrupted their conversation. He took his phone and said to Li Xiumei, it's elder brother's call. Hello, brother. Wang Shengwa took the call and started chatting with Wang Ting's uncle, Wang Shenghong. Before their conversation ended, Li Xiumei's phone rang too. She picked it up and said, hello, Daddy. A few minutes later, both of them hung up their calls. Son, they were inquiring about your university entrance exam. Are you stressed? Wang Shengwa teased his son. Why will I be stressed? I'm going there to get a 0, right? If 1 is not enough, I'll score 2. The ones who will be embarrassed are the two of you anyway, Wang Ting said nonchalantly. Wang Shengwa and Li Xiumei's faces turned black. What was this little brat saying? Just as the three of them started talking, their phones rang again. Wang Ting's uncles, aunties, cousins, all of them were expressing their concern for his university entrance exam. Towards the end, Wang Shengwa and Li Xiumei's gazes became more and more dangerous as they looked at Wang Ting. Son, if you didn't score a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 in this university entrance exam, you can expect a storm from your highness here in the house. Li Xiumei threatened him. As well as your emperor's violent rage. Are you prepared? Wang Shengwa glared at Wang Ting. Wang Ting instantly felt a chill rising up to his head. Emperor, Empress, I can't do it ~h, if you can't do it, you're dead. The phone rang again. Wang Shengwa and Li Xiumei remained silent for a few seconds. Then, they said simultaneously. You can answer it. You can answer it. The corners of Wang Ting's lips twitched. He felt that his parents were almost going crazy because of the tormenting calls. Let's solve a math question now. What's the size of the psychological trauma Wang Shengwa and Li Xiumei are experiencing at the moment? If you're right, there's a reward. Li Xiumei glanced at the caller ID on the phone. She urged her husband, hurry up. It's father. Hello, Dad. Wang Shengwa hurriedly picked up the call. Why did you answer the call so late? A loud voice of an old man came from the other end of the call. He sounded a little stern. Oh, I was in the washroom. Wang Shengwa had the ability to bullshit in front of his father without any hesitation. All right, I'm too lazy to talk to you. Is my grandson beside you? Ask him to receive the call, Grandpa Wang said impatiently. Here, your grandfather. Wang Shengwa passed his phone to Wang Ting obediently. He seemed a little jealous. Wang Ting placed the phone beside his ear and greeted, Grandpa. My dear grandson. Grandpa Wang's voice came over immediately. It was still the same person, but he sounded really amiable now. Wang Shengguo's expression turned even more bitter when he heard the kind tone. Li Xiumei snickered at the side. Wang Ting and Grandpa Wang chatted casually for some time. He mostly asked Wang Ting about his university entrance exam. At the end, Grandpa Wang said, take the exam properly. After your exam, I will host a celebration banquet. Wang Ting had always been obedient in front of Grandpa Wang. That was why Grandpa Wang always considered him an obedient and good child. He never suspected that Wang Ting was hopeless in his studies. Wang Ting still remembered that Grandpa Wang had hosted quite a big banquet for him in his past life. In the end, he wasn't able to hide his results from the prying people, so the banquet turned into a joke in the elite circle. Grandpa Wang almost died from anger. When he thought about this, Wang Ting felt guilty and regretful. Fortunately, in this lifetime, he was a bug in this world. The university entrance exam? For me. Wang Ting silently decided that he must give everyone a surprise this time. He would prove himself to those people who had looked down on him in the past. He would show them what surpassing them meant. No one called them again after Grandpa Wang hung up. Wang Shengguo and Li Xiumei heaved sighs of relief. At first, they were very calm. Now, though, they had distressed expressions on their faces and felt bitter in their hearts. "What should we do?" asked Li Xiumei. "Why don't we break our son's leg so that he doesn't have to take the university entrance exam tomorrow? That way, he won't have any results." Wang Shengguo thought up a nasty idea. Li Xiumei's eyes lit up. "Why don't we give it a try? They say that people who practice martial arts heal faster, so he should be able to recover in a few days. Breaking a leg shouldn't affect him. Are you devils? I am your biological son." Wang Ting trembled in fear at the side. Tomorrow, the headlines would be, "Shocking news. A student's parents broke his leg to prevent him from taking the university entrance exam because he was too poor in his studies." Is this the distortion of human nature or the decline of morality? Chapter 65. Heading to the martial arts exam. Who knew what kind of fear Wang Ting went through the night before the university entrance exam? There was a lesson for everyone in this incident. Don't anger your parents. When they get angry, they're not human. The next day, Wang Ting woke up very early. He wanted to sneak out of the house before his parents awoke to prevent them from breaking his leg. Unfortunately, he could never be earlier than his mom. Li Xiumei was wearing an apron as she came out of the kitchen with breakfast in her hands. She was shocked when she saw Wang Ting. "Son, why are there eye bags under your eyes? You didn't have a good rest yesterday?" Wang Ting expressed his unwillingness to respond. "Did you really think your father and I would break your leg?" Li Xiumei asked in astonishment. "Me? How can your father and I be so cruel?" Li Xiumei shamelessly ignored the words she had said last night. "Me? Hurry up and eat your breakfast, little brat," Li Xiumei said helplessly. After finishing breakfast, Wang Shengguo planned to send Wang Ting to the examination venue personally. He didn't have any hope, but Mr. Wang still viewed the examination with high importance. "Son, did you bring your identification card and your exam identity card?" Before they left, Li Xiumei asked again worriedly. "Yes," Wang Ting replied. "Let me check for you." Li Xiumei inspected Wang Ting's identification cards personally before she felt at ease. She then sent the father and son off. Donghai No. 1 High School. Wang Ting's standard exam was held at Donghai No. 1 High School. At this moment, there were many small cars parked outside the high school gates. Beyond the blockade line set up by the school, students were gathered in small groups, and discussions could be heard everywhere. The scene seemed exceptionally noisy. A few buses were parked on the other side. Many students gathered below the buses too. They were whispering to one another and seemed more reserved as compared to the others. These students had come from the nearby regions to take part in the university entrance exam. Wang Ting got down from his car and scanned his surroundings. He wanted to see if there was anyone familiar. A voice came from behind him. "Young Master Wang, over here." Wang Ting turned his head and saw Yang Jian waving at him while shouting. Lin Chuhan and a few other students from his class were also beside him. "Dad, my classmates are calling me. I'll go over first," Wang Ting said to Wang Shengguo. "Go ahead. I'll come and fetch you after your exam." Wang Shengguo nodded. "There's no need for that. I can go home by myself in the afternoon." "You can focus on your work," replied Wang Ting. "It's all right. One day won't hurt." "It's decided then. I'll come and fetch you later." Wang Shengguo drove his car away after he finished speaking. Wang Teng went over and joined Lin Chuhan and his classmates. How's your preparation? Wang Teng asked Lin Chuhan and Yang Jian casually. Not bad. The normal exam shouldn't be a problem for me, Yang Jian said. We are taking the language, math, and English test today. There's nothing much to worry about. The real headache is the martial arts exam later on, said Lin Chuhan. The martial arts paper examinations and the actual combat assessment. All the students would take the language, math, and English papers first. Then, the ordinary students would continue with their science papers while those participating in the martial arts exam would start their martial arts papers. This was the 5 years of martial arts exam, 3 years of mock papers that they normally studied. Wang Teng nodded. He noticed that Lin Chuhan was alone, so he asked in surprise, "Didn't Auntie send you to school?" "I didn't want her to come," said Lin Chuhan. Wang Teng didn't say anything in reply. Lin Chuhan's family condition was quite special. Her mother was taking care of the entire family, so she was busy as a bee. It was normal that she didn't come. Will your language, math, and English papers be all right? Lin Chuhan changed the topic and asked. Wang Ting had never taken a single lesson properly in the past and his test results were always a single digit. With his score, how was he supposed to pass the exam? But Lin Chuhan had her doubts when she saw Wang Ting's confidence. He looked as though getting results wasn't a difficult thing for him. Don't worry, don't worry. As expected, Wang Ting acted the same way. All right, as long as you're confident, said Lin Chuhan. Little Jian, are they your classmates? A middle-aged man beside young Jian jumped into the conversation. Yes, Dad, they sit behind me. They are participating in the martial arts exam too. Yang Jian nodded and replied. Class monitor, young Master Wang, this is my father. Yang Jian introduced his father to Wang Teng and Lin Chuhan. Uncle Yang, nice to meet you. Wang Teng and Lin Chuhan quickly greeted the man. Yang Jian's father smiled and said, nice to meet you, too. All of you are taking the martial arts exam, so you might end up going to the same university. You can interact with each other more in the future. All right, Dad, we are going into the exam venue soon. You can go back now, said Yang Jian. Okay. I will come and pick you up in the afternoon. Have a good exam. Yang Jian's father bade farewell to Wang Teng and Lin Chuhan and drove his car away. The 3 students stood there and chatted with one another. The other students slowly arrived at the venue. More and more people were standing outside the school gates. Oh no, I forgot to bring my examination identity card. Suddenly, a wail was heard among the crowd. All the students and their parents shifted their gaze over. It was a slightly plump female student. She was so agitated that she was like an ant on a hot pan. Tears fell down her eyes, and she kept rummaging in her school bag. All the things inside were in a mess. However, the more she panicked, the more anxious she got. Her parents started feeling uneasy too. At the same time, they kept complaining and scolding her. Before we left, I reminded you over and over again to check your items to ensure that you've prepared everything. Why didn't you listen to me? What should we do now? The student's mother was a middle-aged lady. At this time, she didn't know what to do either. All the students present looked at the female student with pity. The exam was about to start. She wouldn't be able to make it if she went back to take her identity card now. At the same time, they also started inspecting their possessions. They were afraid that they might have forgotten to bring something and would become a part of this tragedy. Wang Teng couldn't help but inspect his belongings too. The atmosphere would affect a person. The atmosphere at the scene was nervous and fearful, so even though Wang Teng appeared calm and composed, he was also afraid. Fortunately, this kind of thing rarely happened. He wasn't that unlucky. Speaking of being unlucky, a person not far away from him suddenly sneezed. Damn it, I accidentally caught a cold yesterday night and got sick today. This was quite tragic too. This student got sick during the university entrance exam. It might affect his performance. If he accidentally scored a few points less, he might not be able to enter his desired university. Similar things always happened during the university entrance exam. It wasn't anything special. All these scenes were the different sides of the university entrance exam. The time was almost here. The blockade line was removed, and the students immediately flooded into the exam venue. Wang Ting split up with Lin Chuhan and Yang Jian. They went to their individual exam venue. He was very familiar with Donghai No. 1 High School. Wang Ting quickly navigated his way around and found the classroom where his exam would be held. He handed over his cell phone and other electronics. Then, he verified his identification card and exam identity card. After that, Wang Ting could finally enter the room. He found his seat and sat down, patiently waiting for the exam to start. After some time, a voice appeared on the school's broadcasting system. It explained the rules of the exam venue as well as the things to take note of. The students listened to the announcement carefully, afraid of missing a single point. A difference of 1 point might be enough to rise above an entire classroom of students during the university entrance exam. No mistakes were allowed. When the broadcast ended, the university entrance exam officially started. First up was the language exam. The teacher distributed the papers one by one. Wang Ting smiled when he saw the questions on the paper. The language paper lasted for 2.5 hours. Wang Ting only used 1.5 hours to finish it. For the remaining 1 hour, he did nothing. However, he didn't choose to leave the exam venue. Instead, he waited for the bell to ring before leaving the room with the other students. A crowd of agitated parents was anxiously waiting outside the gates of the high school. The second the students came out and saw their parents, before they could say anything, all the parents asked them directly in the face, "How was your exam?" Some were happy, while others were sad. After all, this was the university entrance exam. It was the scene of if you are unhappy, I'm naturally happy. Wang Shanghua was much calmer as compared to them. He didn't even ask Wang Ting. He just drove him home. When they returned, Li Xiumei acted in a similar manner. She was so composed that it felt as if she didn't have a child taking part in the university entrance exam. Wang Ting felt helpless. Weren't they thinking of breaking his leg yesterday? Why were they acting like nothing had happened now? What could he do when he had such strange parents? The math exam was in the afternoon, and he would be taking his English exam the following day. Wang Ting aced everything without any hiccups. Next, it was the martial arts exam. Wang Ting didn't need to take part in the exam in the afternoon on the second day. Hence, he went back home early. The martial arts exam was on the third day at another venue. Wang Shanghua and Li Xiumei were shocked. "You applied for the martial arts exam?" Wang Ting hadn't told them about this. Thus, when they heard that Wang Ting was going to participate in the martial arts exam, they were caught off guard. "That's right. If not, why am I practicing martial arts?" Wang Ting said righteously. "But you've just started learning martial arts and haven't reached the requirements for an intermediate stage martial disciple. Won't it be a waste of time if you take the exam now? Also, I've heard that the actual combat assessment of the martial arts exam is very dangerous. You will be asking for a beating if you go tomorrow," Wang Shanghua said with a stern expression. "Son, you mustn't fool around with your life." Li Xiumei got nervous when she heard this. "Don't worry. If I can't even pass the intermediate stage martial disciple examination tomorrow, I won't have to take part in the actual combat assessment." Wang Ting waved his hand. "Oh, that's right." Wang Shanghua regained his senses. He asked curiously, "In that case, why did you apply for the exam when you have no hope?" "I want to experience it." Wang Ting spouted nonsense, just like his father. "Okay, experiencing it beforehand is good. You will know what to do next year." Wang Shanghua nodded and replied. The 7th of July, the third day of the university entrance exam. In the morning, Wang Ting arrived at Donghai No. 1 High School. The school gates were filled with people as usual. This was the first round of the martial disciple exam, the martial disciple level inspection. This phase wouldn't be held at the high school. Instead, the various famous martial arts academies would hold the event. At this moment, not far away from the high school entrance, a few buses were parked there. Lin Chuhan and the other students taking part in the martial arts exam were already gathered together. The other ordinary students would occasionally look in that direction and whisper among themselves. There were looks of envy in their eyes. They are the high school students who are taking part in the martial arts exam. There's a reform this year, so intermediate stage martial disciples had the chance to apply for the exam too. There are obviously more people compared to last year. Unfortunately, we still don't have the chance. Sigh, martial warriors had already become an icon of the upper-class society. Society and times were changing. In the current era, many high-ranking positions could only be held by martial warriors. They were indispensable and important people in society. Normal people didn't understand the reason behind this, but it didn't stop them from wanting to climb to the top. Upon becoming a martial warrior, it meant that they had extricated themselves from the average working class. Who wanted to live in the lower class forever? Wang Ting got out of his car and bid farewell to Wang Shengguo. He was holding his luggage in one hand and carrying a black rectangular item that looked like the case of a cello on his back. He walked towards the buses. If a student passed the martial disciple level inspection, he would head to the military district afterward to continue the rest of the examination. Thus, all the students must bring along a change of clothes and their daily necessities. Wang Shengguo found it a little funny when he saw Wang Ting, who was just going for the experience, bringing along his luggage and looking as though he was all serious about the exam. But he didn't say anything. He allowed his son to do whatever he wanted. However, he was a little curious about the long black box that looked like a cello case. What did he put inside? But, since Wang Ting didn't want to tell him, he couldn't do anything either. He looked at Wang Ting's back view as he walked towards the buses. Suddenly, Wang Shengguo realized that his son had become different from the person in the past. His back was straight and firm. He looked like a treasured blade waiting to be pulled out of its sheath. He even had the illusion that his son would cause a tempestuous storm during his trip. Wang Shengguo chuckled and shook his head. On the other side, Wang Ting joined Lin Chuhan and his friends. They stood under the bus and chatted casually. "Young Master Wang, what's that behind your back?" Yang Jian sized up the weapon carrier casket on his back curiously. Lin Chuhan looked over too. She scanned the weapon carrier casket with her gaze, but unfortunately, Wang Ting had covered it with a bag. They couldn't see what was inside. They were itching with curiosity. "Secret weapon." Wang Ting smiled and replied. "TSK, don't tell us if you don't want to," Yang Jian complained. Chapter 66. A wolf among a pack of huskies. When the time was up, the blockade line was removed. The students taking part in the normal university entrance exam entered the high school for their exam. Before they left, they glanced longingly at the students going for the martial arts exam. Their expressions were complex. The university entrance exam was a turning point in life. Right at this moment, it felt as though they had reached a crossroads in life. Some people headed to an ordinary path. They might become outstanding in their respective fields, but if they didn't become a martial warrior, they would just be ordinary people. On the other hand, some people were about to embark on an extraordinary path. Great strength, long lifespan, all these weren't dreams anymore. Even though the martial arts path wasn't easy, even though many people collapsed halfway through and died earlier than an ordinary person, even though the peak was hard to climb and most martial warriors remained at the bottom of the mountain, there were still waves and waves of people advancing in this direction. After the ordinary students entered their exam venues, the plaza finally wasn't so squeezy. However, vehicles from other schools arrived continuously and gathered in front of Donghai No. 1 High School. There weren't many martial arts examinees. Still, gathering all the examinees from the various schools in this region, there were around 800 of them. The number was high since the requirements for the martial arts exam were lowered this year. Intermediate stage martial disciples could take part now, so it was understandable that the numbers were higher compared to last year. The leaders of the school and the head teachers of the Year 3 classes were all present too. The head teachers were taking attendance for the martial arts examinees. The school leaders, on the other hand, were conversing with the leaders of the other schools as well as a few officials from the Ministry of Education. Fan Weiming finished taking attendance for Class 8. Everyone was present. He noticed that there was still time, so he spoke to his students. Since all of you have decided to apply for the martial arts exam, do your best. Don't leave any regrets. I hope that you can win glory for the school and gain honor for our Class 8 won last time. But, no matter what, please remember that the safety of your life is still the number one thing. The students were touched by Fan Weiming's words. Many of them couldn't control themselves and opened their mouths. Teacher, don't worry. Although there are no advanced stage martial disciples in our class, we have many classmates taking part in the exam. We will try our best to become the class that has the most number of passes for the martial arts exam. That's right, that's right. We will win by numbers and beat those classes that have advanced stage martial disciples. What the students didn't know was that they didn't have an advanced stage martial disciple but a martial warrior in their class. At this moment, Wang Teng's expression suddenly turned strange. He looked at his classmates talking in front of him and felt that they seemed like a bunch of huskies barking. On the other hand, he was hiding among them like a wolf pretending to know nothing. He felt that he was a little despicable. What's wrong? Lin Chuhan noticed his weird expression and asked with a puzzled tone. Nothing. Wang Ting shook his head hurriedly. Lin Chuhan gave him a weirder and even more puzzled gaze as her reply. Fan Weiming felt comforted when he saw his students in high spirits and full of vigor. He couldn't help but open the water bottle he had brought along with him, and took a gulp of goji berry tea. This feels good. The other head teachers had also finished taking the attendance of their classes. At that moment, the principal walked over and clapped to attract everyone's attention. Has everyone finished taking attendance? Are all the students here? A middle-aged lady took a step forward and said, "One of our students didn't come. It's the head teacher of Class 13. Someone from their class didn't come? Who's so daring to apply for the exam and not turn up?" The students immediately started discussing among themselves in hushed voices. What happened? The principal frowned and asked. The head teacher of Class 13 had a strange expression on her face. She hesitated before replying. He trained too hard yesterday night and broke the bone on his arm. His mother called me this morning and told me that he won't be participating in the martial arts exam this year. Fart. The students burst out laughing when they heard the excuse. This is really amazing. How hard must he have trained to break his arm? Impressive, impressive. He's the role model for our generation. If I was as hardworking as him, I'd have become an advanced stage martial disciple already. I feel that same way too. This person is amazing. At first, the principal put on a stern face, but now, he almost couldn't control his expression. He really wanted to cover his face. This was the Donghai No. 1 high school. Yet, there was such a brainless student who did something stupid at such an important moment. He felt so embarrassed. Do you see the unbearable looks on the faces of the officials from the Ministry of Education? Even the leaders from the other schools were laughing secretly. They were laughing at his school. The principal was furious. In the future, we must work on the psychological education of our students. What on earth is this? The principal reprimanded with a black face. All right, we don't have much time left. Since everyone is here, we will make a move. I will be the one leading all of you for the martial arts exam this time. My name is Liu Wensha. You can call me Mr. Liu. Let's stop wasting time and get into the buses. An official from the Ministry of Education stepped forward and addressed the students. All the students started boarding the buses. Wang Ting shamelessly sat beside Lin Chuhan, while Yang Jian sat on the seat to his left. Yang Jian turned his head and said, "That person just now is my uncle who works at the Ministry of Education." "So that's your uncle?" Wang Teng was surprised. That was such a coincidence. Yang Jian's uncle was actually in charge of leading the examinees from their region. The male student sitting beside Yang Jian was from Class 8 too. When he heard that the middle-aged man, whom the principal had to treat with respect, was actually Yang Jian's uncle, he said excitedly, "Yang Jian, your uncle is actually a leader in the Ministry of Education. With you around, he will definitely take care of all of us." A few other classmates around them agreed with his words. Young Jen's face was glowing when he heard them flattering him. He said proudly, "Of course. However, don't display it too obviously and create trouble for my uncle. This is an unspoken mutual understanding, an unspoken mutual understanding." Shatilda the students hurriedly lowered their voices as though they were sharing a common secret. The bus drove towards the sea. When he saw the familiar road, Wang Teng couldn't help but exclaim at how lucky he was. He was familiar with the exam venue. Jisin Martial House had cleared away all their martial disciples. The entire martial arts academy was quiet. When the examinees arrived, the guards let them in without asking any questions. The bus stopped at the parking lot of the martial arts academy. The students alighted the buses. Many of them had never come to Jisin Martial House before, so they looked at the surroundings curiously. So this is Jisin Martial House, one of the top 3 martial arts academies of China. As expected, it's extraordinary. Those 3 buildings look strange. They look a little like. Refer to Chapter 2 for the exact description. Everyone's attention was immediately attracted by the buildings. The male students laughed ambiguously while the ladies turned red in embarrassment. The principal has a poor sense of humor. Liu Wenxia came down from his car and saw this scene. He couldn't help but give a bitter smile. Chapter 67. What are you looking at? After the buses led by Liu Wenxia arrived at Jisin Martial House, another 2 groups of buses came in one after another. Approximately 1/3 of the martial arts examinees from Donghai were gathered here. The examinees alighted the buses and gathered in small groups. They were extremely noisy. I didn't expect us to get assigned to Jisin Martial House for our level inspection. There must be many examinees at Leitang Martial House and Balian Martial House too. These top 3 martial arts academies place much emphasis on the martial arts exam. Every year, they will fight for the right to become the exam venue so that they can look out for potential examinees to draw over to their side. Not only that, but I heard this is a way for the martial arts academies to display their strength. The examinees will be able to witness the ability of the martial arts academies when they take their exams. Thus, when they make their choice in the future, they will naturally lean towards the martial arts academy they took their exam in. The students discussed the topic seriously. At this moment, the leaders of the 3 bus fleets met each other. They were all from the Ministry of Education and knew each other. They just had different missions today. Line up properly and follow me. After they finished speaking, the examinees quickly queued up in 3 different lines. Each of the 3 main groups was then split into 8 or 9 small teams based on the number of students. Each team was led by a teacher. The 3 leaders led their groups towards the martial disciple training building. The exam hadn't started, so no one was allowed to enter the martial disciple training building. They could only wait outside. Those are the students from Huiying Private High School, right? It should be them. Look at their uniform. Although it's a private high school, their school is famous for being strict with their students. I've seen it for myself today. They even need to wear school uniforms for their university entrance exam. I heard that Huiying is very impressive. They had as many as 8 advanced stage martial disciples. TSK, what's so impressive about that? They snatched at least 5 of them from the other schools using money. The conversations between the other students floated into Wang Teng's ears. He followed their gazes and looked at the group of students on the side. A bunch of examinees wearing blue and white uniforms were standing in a straight line. There seemed to be quite a few of them. The examinees stood there with their chests raised and chins out. All of them were trying their best to display an arrogant expression. The 8 students at the front of the line caught most people's attention, though. Even the other students from Huiying were murmuring about them. Of course, since Donghai No. 1 High School was a top high school, they also became the topic of discussion for the examinees from other schools. The examinees from Donghai No. 1 High School don't seem weaker than those from Huiying High. I heard that they have 5 advanced stage martial disciples, and all of them entered Donghai No. 1 using their results. This is different from Huiying, who bought their students. Also, the number of examinees from Donghai No. 1 High School is around the same as Huiying, Donghai No. 1 High School and Huiying High School. One was a top public high school, while the other was a strong private high school. It was understandable that people would compare the two. The examinees from Donghai No. 1 High School immediately felt proud. Go ahead and compare. Who's afraid of you? In an instant, the students from Donghai No. 1 and Huiying couldn't see eye to eye with one another. As they exchanged gazes, sparks flew everywhere. What are you looking at? Why can't I look at you? How dare you look at me again? I will kill you if you continue looking at me. The students from the other schools became their background. They weren't very happy and were all holding their anger in their hearts. They would astound the crowd during the inspection. If they were able to surpass Donghai No. 1 and Huiying, that would be even better. Time passed quickly. Soon, the main entrance of the Martial Disciple Training Building opened slowly. A few staff stood at the entrance. They are from the Office of Inspector General. Someone recognized the identity of the staff at the door and exclaimed in surprise. Wang Teng's expression changed as his gaze landed on the staff. He had long heard of the Office of Inspector General. In the past, when he was researching online, he chanced upon the Office of Inspector General. Just like the City Protection Bureau, the Office of Inspector General was a department ruled by martial warriors. They were in charge of inspections. Any criminal that fell in their hands would suffer terribly even if they didn't die. Many officials, who were martial warriors, trembled in fear when they met the people from the Office of Inspector General. They were like mice in front of a cat. This powerful department actually appeared at the exam venue of the martial arts exam. Wang Ting was dumbfounded. I've heard that in the early days, there were many cases of cheating. The situation only got better after the Office of Inspector General interfered in the exam, Yang Jian whispered beside him. Wang Ting nodded in understanding. They followed the group and entered the exam venue. The Office of Inspector General staff verified the identification card and the examination identity card one by one. They also scanned the examinees' bodies. The entire process was rigorous. When it was Wang Teng's turn, he successfully passed the scanning without any accidents and entered the exam venue. I'll be going in first. See you again after the exam. All right. Lin Chuhan and Yang Jian nodded. Wang Teng had come multiple times to this martial disciple training building. He was very familiar with the environment here. However, when he entered the building this time, he realized that the interior had undergone an enormous change. All the different pieces of equipment had been moved. Only the strength inspection devices, speed indicator devices, and physique inspection devices were left. Also, it wasn't just one or two devices. There were rolls and rolls of them. They filled up the entire training hall. Each group consisted of one strength inspection device, one speed indicator device, and one physique inspection device. There were 2 staff standing at the side to help with the inspection. There was a number above each set of 3 devices. The examinees needed to find the corresponding set of devices based on the number on their examination identity card. Wang Ting looked at his examination identity card, number 8. There was already a long queue in front of the number 8 inspection device. He walked over and queued up behind the crowd. There were many examinees. However, since this was an important event, everyone was conscientious. No one dared to create trouble. Within a short time, they finished forming a queue. The announcement signaling the start of the level inspection sounded on the broadcast system. Every group of staff had a name list in their hands. They started calling out the names of the examinees one by one. Wang Junming, Qian Zhangxiang. The examinees whose name got called went forward and started the inspection. 4 intermediate stage martial disciples, their strength needed to be between 300 to 700 kilograms. Their 100-meter sprint must be between 5 to 7 seconds, and their physique had to be between 50 to 80. After the examinee finished his inspection, the staff would announce the result on the spot. The other staff would enter the details into the laptop in his hand. Wang Junming, strength 362, speed 6, 8 seconds, physique 56, pass. Qian Zhangxiang, strength 411, speed 6, 2 seconds, physique 61, pass. XXX, strength 298, speed 6, 9 seconds, physique 51, fail. When he heard this announcement, the examinee's face turned pale. He was grief-stricken as if bereaved of his parents. He kept muttering unconsciously, "How is this possible? How is this possible? I inspected my strength a few days ago. It had exceeded 300 kilograms. Why is it 2 kilograms less now?" The other examinees looked at him with pity. It was normal to have some fluctuations in one's strength and speed. It all depended on the person's performance. It was even more so for people who were hovering at the passing mark. A slight dip in performance would cause them to fail. "No way, I want to do my inspection again. I didn't release all my potential. I'm already an intermediate stage martial disciple. I want to do the test again." The examinee went a little crazy. He rushed to the inspector and pleaded with him to give him a second chance. "Drag him out," the inspector said calmly. Every examinee only had one chance for their martial arts exam. Their performance was a test of their mentality too. If they couldn't perform well, they had no one to blame. Also, the criteria this year were already lowered tremendously. If this examinee couldn't even hit the requirements, he wouldn't have any hope of passing the actual combat assessment later on. It would be a waste of time for him to continue. After the inspector finished speaking, a few security guards with stern and cold expressions appeared out of nowhere. They lifted the examinee and dragged him out of the exam venue. "No, I won't want to leave. Please give me another chance, please. Give me another chance." The examinee was unwilling to accept his fate. He struggled furiously and refused to leave. "If you continue kicking up a fuss, your martial arts exam right will be removed." An indifferent voice sounded from the broadcast system. The examinee froze on the spot. He instantly gave up hope and didn't dare to make any more sounds. The other examinees felt their hearts stopping momentarily. The strictness and inhumane nature of this martial arts exam caused them to tense up. They didn't dare to slack, treating the inspection even more seriously. Chapter 68. A potential general stage talent. This candidate acted as a warning for the other students. No examinees dared to create trouble anymore. If they couldn't pass, they accepted the results wholeheartedly. No one yelled or shouted, just walking out of the exam venue dejectedly. The requirements for the exam this time were lowered, so many students had applied with the idea of leaving things to chance. Thus, it was inevitable that there were many weaklings. But this was also the reason why the inspection requirements were stringent. In the control room of the Martial Arts Academy. At this time, many people were gathered in the control room. There were staff from the Office of Inspector General and officials from the Ministry of Education. The principal of Jisin Martial House, Fu Tiandao, as well as the president of the Martial Arts Association, Qin Hanxian, were present too. "President Qin, I didn't expect you to come for the level inspection today," a slightly plump middle-aged man spoke to Qin Hanxian. "Director He, the martial arts talents of Donghai will all be at this martial arts exam. How can I not come?" Qin Hanxian smiled and replied. "This level inspection is just a filtering process. The actual combat assessment is the key," the man called Director He said. "There are many weak people this year." Fu Tiandao frowned. He didn't seem to like this situation. "We don't have a choice. You must have heard about the situation on the other side. We need to try our best to replenish our fresh troops. If not, something bad will happen one day," Director He said helplessly as he forced a smile on his face. "Old Fu, Director He is right. This is imperative." Qin Hanxian agreed. "Temph, even so, what help can these intermediate stage martial disciples give? If you place them in the actual combat assessment, it will only increase the death rate." Fu Tiandao scoffed. "Sigh, how can I not know about this?" Director He sighed. "However, we are putting in 5 times more security for this year's actual combat assessment. We will try our very best to ensure the safety of our students. We will not neglect this portion." Fu Tiandao's expression finally softened when he heard this. He didn't say anything else. "How many potential talents do you think will appear this year?" Director he changed the topic with a smile. Fu Tiandao and Qin Hanxian exchanged glances with each other. We don't know about the rest, but we know that there's a potential general stage talent. What? Director he thought that he had heard wrong. General stage. If there was really a general stage talent in this batch of students, it would be a great achievement for him. In the future, he might be able to get financial allocations from the state treasury and a rise in his position. It felt good just thinking about it. Are you teasing me? Director He's hands were trembling as he swallowed a mouth of saliva. The thought was indeed beautiful, but he was afraid that these two bosses in front of him were just teasing him. If you don't believe me, just continue watching. Qin Hanxian smiled. Aya, don't leave me hanging. Hurry up and tell me. Director he was on tenterhooks. This would affect his career progress, so it would be odd not to panic. If not, with his many years of experience in the political world, how could he lose his composure and appear so agitated? The 8th section. Fu Tiandao couldn't bear to see him like this and shook his head. Director he was elated. He quickly looked at the 8th section. Once the scope was narrowed to a single section, it was much easier. The most outstanding person in the group would be the general stage talent they had mentioned. However, Qin Hanxian added, but we just have the level inspection today. That brat might not display his full potential. Director He's expression froze at once. He was a little stunned as he asked, why is that so? He was puzzled. Shouldn't you try your best in the martial arts exam? You will only get accepted by better universities if your results are better. Why does he need to hide his ability? That's because he will be able to get into a good university even if he didn't release his full potential, Qin Hanxian explained. Director he was dumbfounded. Then, he thought of something. His face was filled with astonishment. Is he a martial warrior already? Only martial warriors were able to get into a good university without releasing their full potential. That was because the martial arts exam was intended for martial disciples. Thus, one would only need to perform like a top-class martial disciple to earn the top university's attention. Fu Tiandao and Qin Hanxian just smiled and kept quiet. They didn't reply to Director He. Even so, Director He felt even more certain that he had hit the mark. He was wild with joy. Martial warrior, martial warrior. There was actually a martial warrior among this batch of examinees. Ha ha ha. Director He really wanted to laugh 3 times to show his respect. A 17-year-old martial warrior. This was a student who became a martial warrior before he entered the martial arts course. What did this mean? No wonder Fu Tiandao and Qin Hanxian both believed that this examinee possessed the potential of becoming a general stage martial warrior despite having high standards. It was extremely rare to find someone who was able to become a martial warrior at this age. There might be some talented people who became martial warriors soon after they entered the university and enjoyed the resources. But, if they were compared with this young man, it was 2 entirely different concepts. He remembered that 2 years ago when a martial warrior examinee appeared during the martial arts exam in Jinlin, even the governor of Jinlin was alerted. The minister of the Ministry of Education of Jinlin had received huge benefits because of this. The governor was proud of the success, and many people were envious of him. No way, I must find this examinee. Director He secretly thought to himself. Many influential people would be paying attention to the actual combat assessment later on. If he was able to allow the examinee to amaze the crowd and shine during the actual combat assessment, he would feel proud too. Those big shots would definitely remember him. The moment he thought of this, Director He stared at the screen displaying the inspection of the 8th section. He didn't even blink. He was afraid that he would accidentally miss this potential general stage talent. The 8th section. Wang Ting. When the inspector called Wang Ting's name, it was finally his turn to take the test. He stood in front of the strength inspection device and casually released a punch. 1,000 kilograms before this, Wang Ting had already tried a few times and knew how much force he had to use to reach the borderline requirement. Hence, he was able to hit the borderline value of 1,000 kilograms with a simple punch. The inspector's eyes widened in surprise when he saw the screen of the strength inspection device. He looked at Wang Ting in shock. The limiting value of a martial disciple. The examinee in front of him actually reached the limiting value. He took a deep breath and then recorded the number silently. After that, Wang Ting walked to the speed inspection device and started showcasing his speed. Pant. 100 meters in 3 seconds. The inspector didn't know what to say. Another limiting value. Where did this monster come from? How could he be so powerful? The last step was the physique inspection. Wang Ting entered the physique inspection device. After some time, the results came out. Physique 100. When he saw this result, even Wang Ting was stunned. He was able to control his strength and speed, but he couldn't control his physique. The device would give whatever value it detected. Before this, he was still worried that his physique would exceed that of a martial disciple by a huge gap, and it would cause unnecessary trouble for him. Now, it seemed that his worry was non-existent. Oh right, the upper limit of the martial disciple physique inspection device is 100. It's not able to detect any value above that. Wang Ting suddenly remembered this point. While he was thinking about this, the two inspectors at the side exchanged glances with each other when they saw his physique value. Physique 100. A third limiting value. The two of them were used to it now. They were also a little hesitant. They didn't know if they should announce this result. The examiners conversed using their gazes and then looked at the three devices. Were the devices malfunctioning? That was impossible. Even if one was spoiled, it was impossible for all three to break down. The examinees behind Wang Ting saw that he had already finished his inspection. However, the examiners hadn't revealed the results even after some time. They started to feel suspicious and whispered among themselves. What is happening? Is the machine defective? Did he cheat? Don't be stupid. If he cheated, will they still remain so peaceful? Have you forgotten about the examinee who got dragged out? More and more people were starting to notice the situation here. The two inspectors got a little anxious. Fortunately, a voice came from the earpieces they were wearing. Report the result as it is. Yes. The two inspectors looked at each other. There was astonishment in their gazes. Even the higher authorities had confirmed this result. It looked like there was nothing wrong with this examinee. He was seriously powerful. Wang Ting, strength 1000 kilograms, speed 3 seconds, physique 100. Pass. Wow. The moment the inspector finished, the entire hall went into an uproar. Are you kidding? He reached the upper limit for martial disciples for all three inspections, not one less. How is that possible? Who is this Wang Ting? I've never heard of him before. Did he cheat? I don't think so. The inspectors didn't announce the result immediately. They must be confirming it. Since they announced it in the end, it should be accurate. Also, there must be surveillance cameras here. How can he cheat under the eyes of the Office of Inspector General? Do you think they are stupid? There's only one possibility. This is a hidden boss. In an instant, everyone's gaze congregated on Wang Teng's body. The sounds of discussions rang around the hall. All the advanced stage martial disciples from the different schools started paying extra attention to Wang Teng. At first, all these advanced stage martial disciples were secretly competing with one another. Now though, an extreme case had appeared and stepped on all of them. This feeling, TSK. It felt as though someone broke their jar of emotions. All kinds of feelings surged into their hearts, sour, bitter, sweet, spicy. Especially the advanced stage martial disciples from Donghai No. 1 High School. All of them stared at Wang Teng, wanting to see which corner or alley this fellow had jumped out from. They had naturally heard of the playful and cocky young Master Wang before. But, this was the reason why they found it hard to believe the results. Was this really the same person? Li Rongqing already knew about Wang Teng's capability, but he also kept his anger and unwillingness bottled in his heart. He wanted to compete with Wang Ting during the university entrance exam to prove to someone that he, Li Rongqing, was better than this person. In the end, right at the beginning of this competition, he was already a huge distance behind Wang Teng. This was a distance he couldn't catch up at all. At this moment, Li Rongcheng's expression was a sight to behold. On the other side, Lin Chuhan's eyes were wide open as she stared at Wang Teng, who was quite far away, in disbelief. Was this fellow really so strong? Everyone who knew or didn't know Wang Ting had a flabbergasted expression on their faces. They were in all disbelief and denial. This result was like a nuclear bomb. Everyone was stunned by the explosion. Wang Ting stood on the spot and felt extremely awkward. He glared at the two staff furiously. "You are from the Office of Inspector General. Can't you act calmly? Can't you be a little more normal?" At first, only the people around him should have known his results. Now, the entire hall of people knew it. He felt like a husky surrounded by people looking at him. "Do you think it's easy for me?" Chapter 69. In the control room, director he couldn't help but beam with delight. He said to Fu Tiandao and Qin Hanxian, "This is the examinee that you are talking about, right?" However, Fu Tiandao and Qin Hanxian just gave him an ambiguous smile. The expression on their faces was expressing a single word: guess. "We're not going to tell you." Sob. Director he felt depressed. To hell with guessing. He was so frustrated he wanted to vomit blood. If it wasn't for the fact that he couldn't provoke these two bosses, he really wanted to curse them. Thinking about it, he was someone with real power in Donghai. In Donghai, everyone treated him with respect. Unfortunately, he couldn't do anything to Fu Tiandao and Qin Hanxian. Our director he felt highly frustrated and wronged. But, even though he was frustrated, he was still 90% confident that the person these two bosses were watching was this examinee called Wang Teng. An extreme martial disciple? TMPH, he must be a martial warrior. Extreme martial disciples could be considered prospective martial warriors. However, he keenly observed just now that Wang Ting seemed too relaxed. It felt as though he was just putting on a casual performance. He was able to reach the extreme values in such a relaxed manner. This meant that his ability wasn't limited to what he displayed. In the exam venue, the uproar finally started settling down. The rest of the examinees went back to what they were doing and focused on performing during their level inspection. This was a crucial segment of the martial arts exam. Even if Wang Teng's inspection results gave everyone a considerable stimulation and pressure, they needed to adjust their mentality and continue the exam. Also, while Wang Teng's result gave the students much stress and pressure, it spurred them to work harder. Especially the advanced stage martial disciple from the various top high schools. They were already reigning in their emotions. Obviously, they had an excellent mentality. Thus, their performance was good too. Their results were all slightly higher than their typical inspection results. As for people with a slightly weaker mentality, they couldn't handle the stress and cracked under pressure. But they couldn't blame anyone. No one would take the blame for them, either. If they couldn't even cope with this small amount of stress, how were they supposed to continue on the martial arts path? It would just get more difficult in the future. The exam continued. Suddenly, an inspection result caught many people's attention. He Manrong, strength 834, speed 4, 2 seconds, physique 86, pass. He Manrong was one of the 5 advanced stage martial disciples from Donghai No. 1 High School. Many examinees from Donghai No. 1 High School and the other high schools had heard of her before. Everyone's gaze landed on her figure. Their first impression was that she was pretty and her legs were long. But now, most of their focus was on her results, the standard of an advanced stage martial disciple. Her ability must not be underestimated. The level inspection hadn't ended, so the examinees weren't allowed to leave the exam venue. Wang Teng was standing in the waiting area when he heard the lady's result. He couldn't help but look towards the girl standing among the crowd. He still remembered that when he had first arrived in this world, the first advanced stage martial disciple he met was He Manrong. Back then, he had just looked at her from afar, so the other party didn't know who he was. At that time, Wang Ting was just a normal person. He even felt that He Manrong was very powerful. Now, he was already a martial warrior. If he met He Manrong during the exam, he would only use one hand. Time flew by. Batches and batches of examinees went forward to undergo their inspection. At the same time, more and more people got eliminated. At first, Wang Teng wasn't paying attention to the inspection. They were all martial disciples. They wouldn't possess any threat to him, so knowing their results wouldn't make much of a difference. However, an announcement caused him to raise his eyebrows unconsciously. A naughty smile appeared at the corner of his lips. Li Rongqing, strength 812, speed 4, 8 meters, physique 83, pass. Li Rongqing's results were out. From the data, he had managed to pass the inspection with the standard of an advanced stage martial disciple. However, he knew clearly that the guy hadn't performed well. The pressure that Wang Ting gave him was too great. There was already a grudge between the two, so the better Wang Ting performed, the more he wanted to overtake him. In the end, not only was he unable to overtake him, he couldn't even release his full potential. Damn it! Li Rongqing glared in Wang Ting's direction. Ever since he met this fellow, he had never been lucky. Wang Ting chuckled uncontrollably when he heard this result. He had fought with Li Rongqing before, so he knew that his true capability was stronger than this. It was obvious that he didn't perform well this time. You can't blame me for that, right? Wang Ting muttered to himself. Speaking of him, whether in his past life or this lifetime, before the Wang family went downhill, there were no huge grudges between Li Rongqing and him. They were just rich second generations who didn't see eye to eye with each other. But, after the Wang family collapsed in his past life, Li Rongqing didn't let go of that good opportunity to jeer at him. Not only did he hit him when he was down, he even humiliated him frequently. At that time, Wang Ting was having a hard time. He had to work to support himself. One time, Li Rongqing bumped into him at work and humiliated him right there. He even framed him for being sticker-fingered and caused him to lose his job. This was how the hatred between them was formed. In this lifetime, Li Rongqing was quite innocent. He took the blame for something he didn't do and got beaten up terribly because of it. After that, he kept getting suppressed by Wang Ting wherever he went. This caused him to gnash his teeth with hatred. Every time Wang Ting saw how much Li Rongqing hated him but was unable to do anything about it, he would recall his past life. This was exactly how he felt back then. This allowed him to understand things at a deeper level. He didn't care if his past life had any relation to this life. He also didn't care whether Li Rongqing had bullied him in this lifetime or not. He just didn't like Li Rongqing. Hence, he must be unlucky. I, Wang Ting, am a narrow-minded person. As he recalled his painful past, the inspection slowly drew to a close. Lin Chuhan's name was closer to the bottom of the name list, but she had ended her inspection too. She managed to pass, even though it was a narrow escape. Her data was quite dangerous. Strength 323, speed 6. 8 seconds, physique 55. Wang Ting didn't know what to say about her results. He never imagined the godlike student, Lin Chuhan, would have a moment like this. Poor, her results were too poor. Ha ha ha, every dog has its day. Lin Chuhan looked at Wang Ting. He wanted to laugh but didn't dare to do it. She rolled her eyes uncontrollably. Laugh if you want to. My martial arts results aren't as crazy as yours. I'm not laughing. I'm very serious. Wang Ting hurriedly denied it. Are you kidding? How can I laugh when a lady asks me to laugh? That's so insensitive. After some time, Yang Jian finished his inspection. He passed too. This fellow had an uncle working in the Ministry of Education, so he had received insider news long before the rest of the students. He had ample time to prepare. It wouldn't make sense if he didn't pass. He walked over from afar. When he saw Wang Ting, he rushed over and started shouting, "Young Master Wang, I'll walk towards you on my knees and shoot the ground with my head." Wang Ting was dumbstruck. What does he mean? He turned to look at Lin Chuhan. He wanted to let this star student translate for him. He feels like kneeling in front of you. Lin Chuhan felt speechless as she replied. Yang Jian nodded furiously at the side. Young Master Wang, you have my respect. I'm willing to bow down to you. I didn't know that you're so impressive. Boss, please accept my knees. Go away. Wang Teng was speechless. This fellow must be crazy. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.